Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this Thursday, April 9th, regular session Public Utilities Advisory Board meeting. This is our second meeting of the year. My name is Lou Halkias, and I'm the chair of the board and will be conducting the meeting today. Mayor, would you please call the roll?
Louis Halkias.
Here.
Michelle Ackman.
Here.
Abbas Ikabarawala is absent. Roger Blomquist.
Here.
James Hilar.
Here.
Rupa Natarajan.
Here.
All right. Zain Kanawala.
Here.
All right.
Sure.
And then Magaranath Rajakumar.
Here.
Phil Schreiber.
Here.
Nathan Wilson. Can be late. Okay. Right, go ahead, you may proceed.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next order of business is public forum. Speakers will be called in the order that they are signed up. What does our list look like?
I have one speaker. I believe it's Tim Ferrito.
Okay.
So,
Okay, one speaker. So speakers will be called in the order that they're signed up. Sign up, they could speak at the end of the public forum. If you didn't sign up, but would like to do so, please raise your hand so that we can get your name and add it to the list. Okay. Will be old business. We're going to pass on the option of bifurcation because we only have one speaker. So please call the first speaker.
Ferrito.
Sit or? You could probably, yeah. Sure. That working?
Technical difficulties. So.
Still recording. Good. You started now.
And I start with presentation.
Here we go.
Exit out of there. What is this format? Just zoom in.
Tim, would it be easier for you to sit on the side? Maybe sit with it.
Hey, you good? Sounds good. Okay, first I'd like to thank District 203 coming forward to give their carbon action plan. I've looked at it in the past and a couple months ago and just have a few questions. And I assume you'll answer some of these. If not, it'd be great to know where I get answers for them. So the first question I have is the purpose and justification of the carbon action plan. Or what are the goals? And was CAP preceded by a formal evaluation? The next question I have is there's a consultant, Caramita. They use a model called 8.5, RCP 8.5. This model is a little outdated. I'm just wondering why they selected it. It was the high risk, low probability model. It's been written about. It's probably less than 3% chance probability that it comes true. The next question I have is more about, I'm trying to read everything on here, but Illinois has a net zero plan. So I was just wondering why District 203 felt it was important for them to do something instead of just following the states. net zero plan. Then the next thing, I'd like to try to get information before. I know there was a couple of years ago, District 203 bought some EV buses from Lion Electric. I was wondering if there was any lessons learned from that. Lion Electric went bankrupt. I'm not sure what happened. There was a second purchase of 4 buses that never happened. So I wonder if there was any analytic work done around these EV buses or any lessons learned. They are 3 to 4 times more expensive than diesel buses. And then the last one is just the educational scope of the carbon action plan. It seems pretty narrow. I've been to presentations for the school board. Maybe there's a lot more that happens behind the scenes, but I think there's a great opportunity here for the students to learn more about climate science, like radiative forcing, logarithmic CO2 forcing, positive and negative feedbacks in the climate, and to learn about electricity. Electricity is pretty complicated, so how the grid systems work, how the market zones work, capacity options, capacity accreditation. It's a great opportunity to learn stuff. So I just wonder if the students have been able to learn something from this. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next will be old business. And we will approve the Public Advisory Board meeting minutes, the last meeting. Imagine everybody's had an opportunity to review their minutes. So do I have a motion to accept those minutes? Or is there any other adjustment to those minutes? Do I have a motion?
I motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Now, do we have any discussion, anything about adjusting those minutes? Not seeing any. Those in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. So our new minutes, or our new business for today, District 203. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Gonna stand if that's all right?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Whatever makes you comfortable.
Thanks, everybody. Good evening.
Good
evening. Thank you. Some of you are still awake. Thank you. It's been a long day and a long week, so we're appreciative to have an opportunity to talk to you a little bit tonight. To the public comments, just real quick, our presentation isn't specifically an overview of our carbon action plan tonight. That is something that you can find on our district website. We also have done a lot of the overview presentations kind of in recent times. So we're going to do a little bit of an overview for you tonight, just in terms of setting context. But we're also trying to provide some information in terms of kind of projects that are currently underway that relate to the use of energy, and then also things that are on the radar, kind of sort of a 5 and 10 year plan. Don't know we'll answer all the questions tonight. Certainly we're available. I'm available to answer questions going forward if this body needs additional information. So my name is Chuck Freund. I'm one of our assistant superintendents. I oversee a lot of the operations in our district, our buildings and grounds department, which is day-to-day led by a director. She was unable to be here tonight. Also our technology department, our safety and security, our centralized enrollment division, and then also I do some executive coaching for a lot of our administrators. The better part of our presentation team is this young lady standing right next to me, and I'll have her introduce herself.
My name is Ina Wei.
Please speak up as loud as you can.
My name is Ina Wei. I'm a junior at Naperville Central, and I'm one of the student representatives for the Carbon Action Plan Committee.
So Ina's with me tonight. We had a couple students that were coming. One was unable to be here because of a work commitment. Sorry, I wasn't able to be here last time because I was actually very sick. So thank you for rescheduling. But Ina will help present a little bit tonight. We feel it's good for students to be involved in this work, but also to have opportunities to present publicly, because that's a skill in itself. we'll get started kind of looking at our plan. So just for context, this slide just gives you a little bit of an overview of who we are as a district. I think that context is important. For example, we have 27 facilities from early childhood all the way up, and some buildings that are not necessarily schools. But when we talk about things like climate change, carbon action, energy, it spans a pretty kind of vast area in terms of what we serve. Our plan actually was initiated, as most are, through a strategic plan that our Board of Education sets. So this was not something, although our students have been asking for work in these ways, this is not something that started from our staff, from our administration, our Board of Education in a strategic plan. Actually, shortly before the pandemic, set in Strategic Focus 3, the need to identify and create a long-term plan to reduce our footprint. So that's what led to kind of initiating the work originally.
In March 2024, we engaged with a social sustainability advisor to complete our current greenhouse gas inventory, and then engaged our students, staff, and community in creating a comprehensive action plan, which was approved by our Board of Education 1 year ago. Since then, our work has begun towards achieving our goal of net zero. Our carbon action plan has two main targets. By 2050, we want to have a net zero emissions. And by more midterm, we want to target 35% reductions in greenhouse gases emissions in 2035. Our plans has three categories: buildings and energy, transportation, and waste. Within each of these three categories, we have multiple reduction plan measures.
Our plan itself is on our website. I think actually there's a QR code in this presentation early on if you want to see the plan, the comprehensive plan itself. We also have a dashboard on our website that shows the baseline data that our plan actually was sort of set from. So when we talk about 35% reductions or net zero, it's based off of those baseline years that actually go back sort of pre-pandemic. The rest of our presentation tonight is really about our projects that are underway. Not all of these are initiated. In fact, none of these are initiated because of our carbon action plan. Our carbon action plan is a roadmap, and it is sort of integrated within projects. Projects don't come from the plan per se itself. So we'll take a look at a few of those. One of our most recent projects and ongoing projects right now is our transportation facility. So our facility actually, up until recently, was actually like 4 mobile units that have been sort of taped together, if you will, for about the last 25 years. That facility actually became unusable from just basically from not only an energy standpoint, but from a day-to-day operation standpoint. So our transportation facility currently is in a lease space across Fifth Avenue, sort of just south of Naperville North High School. And where the facility actually, the permanent facility existed and our bus yard exists, the new facility will be constructed. So we're right now in kind of approval sort of queue with the city of Naperville for some variances. And as soon as those variances are approved, we'll actually be kind of shovels in dirt to get that facility constructed. We're hoping actually by the end of this calendar year or early next calendar year. Naperville North High School is something that we are anticipating being completed kind of fall of 2027. We have an addition going on this building, about 18,000 square feet. Both the transportation facility and our Naperville North addition will have some clean energy components to it, geothermal units, solar, those kinds of things, as a result of our board's desire to move in that direction. This actually, although this says begins this month, that was based on the presentation that I was going to give when I was sick. So we've actually begun construction already. So if you're driving by Naperville North on the west side of that building, you will actually see construction equipment out there right now. So a little bit more about that transportation facility, just to give you an overview. We actually are into kind of a, kind of moving west into what our Naperville North students and staff often used as a kind of a practice field. It's kind of shorter than a football field. We're going to be utilizing that because we just put in some new turf fields just north of this parking lot that's on the right side of the screen. But the new facility will be on one side, basically offices that run the day-to-day operations, and it'll be connected to the maintenance garage itself as well, just to give you a sense of that. And then this diagram actually shows off of the building and around the parking lot where the staff parking are, we'll actually have some canopy arrays to also collect some solar energy for the use of this building. Going a little bit deeper, we are installing geothermal wells for basically our HVAC. So about 60 to 70% of this new facility will run off of geothermal and solar energy. So we'll be pulling about 30 to 40% basically from, traditional grid energy from the city of Naperville. Try to speed up here a little bit if I can. So some future projects we have kind of a 1 year, 5 year, 10-year sort of overlapping cycles in terms of how we do projects throughout our district. We have some annual priorities. Those priorities go to the Board of Education every fall for the following year. We sort of have a proposed recommended list of projects. The board approves those projects on an annual basis. We utilize kind of a 5-year outlook in terms of looking at things that we have to do from a life safety standpoint, also from our architects and engineers that we work with in terms of things that need to be replaced, repaired, or renewed. And then every 10 years, we do a complete comprehensive facility assessment. Our most recent one was actually provided to the Board of Ed in October, and that's available to the public as well online. So just some sort of highlights from that. We have a solar feasibility study done, which is simply only our roof structures. So we haven't yet looked at a complete solar assessment where we can determine kind of what our energy savings could be. That's a next step. So right now, the only solar that we're planning that we have official plans to do in our district are actually at our new transportation facility and potentially at the Naperville North addition. No other solar arrays at this point are planned yet, but I anticipate over the next couple of years that will increase. Then the rest of the slides that you have available to you and are in this presentation are kind of those 1-year looks at projects that we have planned. Again, anything that's in here as proposed has not been Board of Ed approved, so they're not necessarily in plans yet. But you can kind of get about a 5-year look at things we'll be doing in our district that are kind of larger capital projects to either replace or to, kind of fix or restore anything from equipment to roofs to generators and different things like that. I thought that might be useful to this body as you're thinking about kind of energy consumption and how our impact as a district sort of overlays with that. So I won't go through each of these slides for the sake of time, but wanted to provide them so that you have them at your fingertips instead of having to dig into our Board of Education documents. So with that, be happy to take any questions that you might have this evening or any comments of things we can give back to this group if there's things that you need beyond what we've shared this evening.
So are there any questions from PUAB members?
I think Tim had a bunch of questions.
I'm sorry?
Tim asked several questions.
No, he did have several questions. I want to do the PUAB first.
Oh, okay.
Hi, my name is Phil. So thank you for the presentation. With regards to the 2035 goal, what do you see as the biggest risk towards realizing that objective? And given City of Naperville's current evaluation of their energy procurement strategies into the whatever, next 10 to 20 years, do you have an opinion or recommendation on things that the city could be doing that helps your district either accelerate or have a higher level of success in achieving that goal?
So we're actually fairly confident. Again, our plan is a roadmap. We know it will change year to year when new technologies and research emerges and such, as well as simply what sources of funding are available to us. Our 35% benchmark, or 35% by 2035 is set because of the contract City of Naperville has through that year. So we actually would have probably set that at a higher rate had we known that we were moving off of coal, for example. So our biggest risk for reaching net zero is that. And so we're less confident we can get to net zero by 2050 if there aren't changes in terms of the provider for energy to the city of Naperville. The 2035 benchmark is doable regardless of that, because with changes we're making, such as geothermal energies in terms of heat pumps and such, as well as some solar arrays, I think that's within our reach. That again, that later benchmark is not within our reach if we remain on coal energy.
So since it was, I did see those questions before, and maybe because of the fact, I don't know how long we are going to keep on going with our questions. Is there an objection to letting the questions that are up here already be asked first? No objections? Tim, do you want to go forward?
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's something you can't answer, then I'm happy to
Yeah, I heard.
reconvene.
Yeah, we could absolutely connect at another time too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there anything up there that you can answer or?
I mean, some of this I'll have to dig back into with our team,
Okay,
but
I'd be happy to share that slide with you with the hard copy, so.
Yeah. I mean, what I can answer, I think, for this body and off of here that I think is, kind of jumps out to me is this, the question around the state and why we felt action was necessary. I mean, in part, I answered that in that this was our Board of Education as elected officials that decided this was a priority for us. That did come from our students as well. And our understanding that, a state goal or a country's goal or what have you is really made up of a lot of smaller efforts. And so this was our interest in making our effort within our district. Things like, for example, recycling are easy things we can do internally to make a difference and help our students. On the learning end, we do have students like Ina who are involved actually on our steering committee, and we're involved in the plan. But day to day, things like the new transportation facility will actually have some ability to tie in for students to see energy consumption and how, for example, geothermal energy is making a difference compared to traditional mechanisms and things like that. And we do have lots of courses at our high school level. Ina could probably talk about this better than I could even, around electricity, physics, different things like that as well. So there are opportunities, and often our curriculum department is ensuring those things are in classes, particularly in the sciences. So a lot of those, maybe I can get your contact information card, what have you.
Yeah,
we can connect on some of these other
That
things.
sounds good. I would have one last question would be, one thing I like to look at is economics and return and differential and cost. So you mentioned geothermal and solar. So did you do economic study of that, or?
Yeah,
is
we
that-
did. So there was a presentation to the Board of Education in, I'm going to say December. Don't quote me on that. But we actually had the engineers that we're working with on our transportation department do an ROI on the geothermal units, as well as the energy savings through 2050. And I think that came out to about 6.1 years in terms of return on investment, and then about a $3.5 or $4 million energy savings in today's dollars through the year 2050. Those numbers are close, I think. I don't, but there's a document from, I think it's the December. I can share that with you.
Okay, that'd be
Get your
great.
contact information.
Okay, now back to the PUAB. Yes.
I just got a
Roger.
quick question. So your geothermal, is it generating or storage?
Generating, okay, yeah, no storage. Because we won't even hit full capacity, certainly about the use of our facility.
Yes. Go ahead, Jim.
Thank you for coming, both of you. Got a couple questions, it's kind of a mix between, we're primarily a utility board and our concerns are electricity and water,
Right.
And, but this electricity issue kind of moves into the greenhouse gas arena. School District 203's, decision to declare that they would not like IMEA's contract to be renewed. As you well know, this board last year voted to renew or recommended the city renew the contract. So, I guess this board has a different opinion than the school districts. But some of my questions revolve around, is this like a live effort that will be continuously viewed on an ongoing basis? Or is it a one and done? You published your report and now that's it? Or
I think
what's the plan for, engaging in any new information that might come out that might change at least what's in this report, which I kind of focused on, which is the actual carbon action plan, in preparation for this meeting.
Sure, yeah. So that's what that is. That's the approved plan in 2025. We have a steering committee that meets 3 to 4 times per year. That involves students, that involves staff, that involves actually community members. We do have a couple members of the city of Naperville that are involved in energy conservation. And I can't remember exactly what that division is in the city. Sustainability group. And that group is tasked with keeping current, looking at research, looking at grant opportunities, reviewing the basically 25-year plan, which is almost ridiculous to think about in smaller increments. So what is it that we're going to focus on from, for example, September to December? What are we focusing on the next year? What are we going to focus on the next few? And so that plan that's in front of you right now has not been revised. We're only about a year into it. But I believe and I know that that plan will actually evolve quite a bit over the course of the next 25 years. The Board of Education also gets one formal update as well as more informal updates throughout the year, but one formal update a year. And that Board of Education can, and I think will at times direct changes in terms of direction with the plan as well. I mean, can't possibly envision what 10 years will look like from now.
So it is a living document that will continuously be reviewed,
Sure.
Updated as things change.
I refer to it as a roadmap, right? So we think we know where we're going, but there's going to be some detours along the way.
Okay. So when I look through it, I understand this is both kind of an action plan developed by students and with advisory group input. I think you're one of the advisory group members, correct? And there's some teachers that are, and then it was kind of a vague description of some of the other advisory groups that were involved. Who were the outside advisory groups? You mentioned Naperville Sustainability Director was involved. What other outside advisory groups were brought in to feed information to help prepare this document?
The document itself was led by one of the questions and comments. Pyramida was the consultant that that led the group that I referred to the process of creating the plan. That's different than the steering committee, which is now the ongoing group that includes the sustainability division that I referenced. So we had a group that developed the plan, and now we have a group that's overseeing the implementation and the adjustments to the plan.
Okay, so we heard the sustainability group, Naperville Pyramida does sustainability studies. Did you bring in anybody or any person or any group that has any knowledge whatsoever of the electricity markets, for example? You know, and I can go through, you know, some of the elements of that, you know, energy markets, capacity markets. PPAs are mentioned in this document, grid configuration, PJM versus MISO, regulatory bodies like the Illinois Power Agency, NERC, PJM, the market, PJM market monitor. Was there anybody with expertise in energy economics that were brought in? Energy laws like FIJA, CIJA, and CIRGA. And I guess a final question is, we held several workshops on this issue last year. Did any of your students or you attend our workshops to become informed about what the utility board was doing in investigating this issue about IMEA? And I guess I would ask, you said you brought in Naperville Sustainability Group, but Mr. Groth over there is our utility director who understands the electricity market quite well. Were any of these people also brought into your organization, help study this issue and develop you know, a report?
To answer your question, not directly, but we certainly consider research that's out there, and Caravita as the consulting company is what brought us information to look at. So our group was about 30 to 35 people, but we did not bring in, for example, Mr. Groth.
So since this is a living document, would you be willing to allow experts to come into the next set of reviews that you have on this carbon action plan and bring in some of this other expertise, which in my opinion, Pyramida is not an energy expert. Maybe they have some on staff, I don't know. But you have a lot of homegrown energy or people with energy knowledge in this town. As a matter of fact, there's several on this board that have quite a bit of knowledge in the energy space. Would you be open to asking perhaps some of the PUAB members to participate in this project and other folks that have energy expertise?
Very open. I mean,
Okay.
part of the reason that we're sharing our story is because we have a lot to go. We have a lot to learn. We know that the plan will change. The plan that's before you is not, you know, is not going to be the plan, as I said, you know, years down the road. So we're interested in and frankly recruiting expertise to help that plan evolve as it continues to live and breathe.
Okay, well, could I ask you to, when you're recruiting, perhaps go through Mr. Groth to let utility board members know when you're going to be doing your next round of reviews of this document. And we can either participate or we know people in the industry that might be able to contribute to it as well. So if you could, you know, commit to letting Mr. Groth know in that next round of analysis or students getting together to talk about this happens, I think that might be a beneficial addition to the work. And the students, I think, will learn more too if they get a little bit wider variety of skill sets coming to their sessions.
Actually,
Somebody else has a question for him.
so first of all, I want to commend both of you for coming here. It takes courage to stand in front of people and to present what you've been working on. I think that's a great, I agree. This is an excellent way to teach hands-on and being involved in this situation. And I want to commend the school also, 203, for the district, for bringing up projects, I think, to go forward, something like this, that would have a positive impact on the school district. I'm with the Public Utility Advisory Board, and my background, I'm more concerned, not more concerned, also concerned to the impact it might have on the city utilities. And I want to protect our utilities and make sure that, you know, we have the electricity that needs to be to make everything work here in Naperville at an affordable rate for that. And in doing that, I've noticed, I want to make sure also that you have, as a school district, you get both points of view, because that tends not to happen. And this area in particular can be an emotional area for people.
Yes, sir.
And that's unfortunate. And I think schools are the best place to be able to demonstrate what the facts are. And this is your chance. And to keep the reputation of the school district. It's a very, very high school district. My boys went to 203 and Naperville Central and through there. My wife worked in 203. So very familiar with 203. And I think there's a lot of good that can come out of this project. So
Already has.
yeah, and already has. So this is because there are collateral issues. And some may not necessarily be directly carbon related, but they're always positive things.
Correct.
However, we are very interested in the carbon related things because of the fact that's really a main issue that we're concerned with, to make sure that we're meeting those needs. So I think you had a very nice presentation, and I think it was informative. And I'll ask for other questions if there are any. But it's nice to see what you're doing and to come forward and to present it to us, which was very, very nice. So thank you for that opportunity. Are there any other?
I have more.
All right, go ahead.
A large portion of the actual carbon action plan is dedicated to the greenhouse gas inventory analysis that was done. And I think it says in here that electricity was 61% of the carbon emissions that was done in the inventory. I noticed that I didn't notice, it looks like that greenhouse gas inventory was based upon scope 2 greenhouse gas emission analysis, according to the greenhouse gas protocol. But of course, scope 2 has two elements to it. One is the market greenhouse gas calculation, and the other is the location. This report only seems to have reported on greenhouse gas emissions for the school district based on market purchases. In other words, IMEA's coal plants. But the more modern way of doing greenhouse gas emission calculations is to include location-based. And Mayor, could you pull up that slide or slide I gave you, number 8? And I brought this up at the city council meeting last night, so this is not new information. But this is obviously a map of the geographic area that we live in. This is the PJM ComEd zone. The green boxes, yeah, that's a little messed up. The green boxes with the words nuke on it are nuclear power plants that surround Naperville. The blue boxes are natural gas peaker plants that provide power when the grid needs it on top of the base load provided by the nuclear power plants. Now, you don't really have to be a electricity transmission expert to see that Naperville doesn't burn any coal or doesn't consume any power produced by coal plants. In fact, if you even just do a simple AI search, I think you'll discover that Naperville is supplied, probably in the tune of 80 to 90% via nuclear power plants, which of course are carbon free, with the balance being natural gas. So that little yellow star there, which represents Naperville, you know, there's an argument to be made that school district 203 is burning, or not burning, but is consuming electricity that is pretty much carbon free in reality, if you just look at the physics of the world. On the financial side, we buy power from IMEA, which is supplied from coal plants. But scope 2 greenhouse emissions are supposed to be calculated both ways. And it seems like only one way was done here. Would the school district be open to trying to make a calculation? This would be a learning opportunity for your students as well. Would the school district be open to calculating the greenhouse gas emissions that are based upon our location within this PJM ComEd zone, which is a little bit different from what the number comes up with when you use coal-based power as the market-based scope 2 emission? Would you be open to having your students do that?
I don't know that that would be a function of our students doing that, but we'd be open
Oh,
to considering it, yes.
I mean, explore that with Caramita, because Caramita would know how to do this, I believe, if they do greenhouse gas emissions. So the point being is that Naperville is and probably might be one of the cleanest consumers of electricity in the Midwest with these nuclear power plants. Not many places in the country are positioned like we are to consume this carbon-free energy. So when we talk about carbon reductions, my question is, what carbon reductions? That's a question I'll pose, you know, to you and your students to think about as this being a learning opportunity.
It's materials, it's fuel, it's all the above.
Sure. Not discrediting the fact that Naperville sends its money to IMEA, who buys power from a coal-fired power plant. Everybody acknowledges that. That's true. And that's a problem for a lot of people. But me being an engineer, I like to look at the physics of things as well. And, you know, there's the physics of the world we live in right there.
Love to consider additional expertise, which was your previous question.
Sure.
Yes.
And I just have one
I
more,
have not seen
one more
this one.
question then. The school district's goal was to be carbon-free by 2050. Mayor, could you switch to slide 10? So the school district's goal is to be carbon-free by 2050. And I think I read a statement somewhere where it was said that earlier this year, the district adopted a carbon action plan that sets a goal of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. The plan would be unachievable if the city were to renew its electricity contract through 2055, district officials said. So this is a Tribune article. So my question becomes, the state has a, by law, target to be carbon-free by 2050. So why would it be impossible for the school district to achieve that target if it stayed with IMEA?
I don't know that, you know, the state having a goal in itself ensures that we get there. I mean, I
This is
think it's
by law. By law, all fossil fuel plants have to be shut down by 2050. So I'm trying to understand why the school district would make a statement that it cannot get to zero emissions by 2050 unless it leaves IMEA.
I'm not familiar with that article that you're.
I think it's in the district statement as well. But I'm a little confused by that because state law says all fossil fuel plants in Illinois will be shutting down in 2050. So it just seems like school district would be carbon free by then. The other question I have is you have this intermediate, or school district has this intermediate goal being 50% carbon free by 2035. Is that the number?
35%.
Or 35%? Okay. I would I would assume, or I don't know, maybe I shouldn't make the assumption. Did your group study the IMEA contract proposal that was sent to Naperville in almost 2 years ago as part of this carbon action plan?
Did we study it? No. Did we reference it? Did we read it? Yes.
Okay, are you familiar with the member directed resources option within the IMEA contract proposal?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Okay, well, the member directed resource option within the IMEA contract proposal gives the city, if it signed a contract today, for example, it gives the city to go out and buy its own clean energy. In other words, it can buy up to 25% of its consumption as clean energy, which we think would be nuclear, because that satisfies some other requirements. And in recent discussions with IMEA, they said the city could almost double that if it wanted to. So the city could literally overnight purchase half of its consumption being carbon-free energy. Now you add that on top of the, I think, how much will Be Hollow add? About 15%?
And you get to 20% by 2020. Yeah, that's 26.
Yeah, but with Be Hollow, today we're at 11, Be Hollow would add 9, that's 20. And if the city were to renew the contract with IMEA and take advantage of the 20% MDR option that's available to it, the city would be 70% clean energy as soon as that contract was signed. So I'm comparing 70% clean energy if we renewed the contract with IMEA today versus the school district's goal of 35% clean by 2035. I think the math is clear that the city would be much more carbon free if it renewed with IMEA and took advantage of the member directed resources option, anywhere between 10 and 20%. Does that make sense to you?
Your math makes sense, yes.
Okay.
I heard if.
Do you know if the school district members, when they made their proclamation that the city should leave IMEA to clean things up, did they know of this member directed resource option, which would do a far better job of cleaning up than just leaving IMEA and even going to zero carbon after that?
Sir, I don't know. And with respect, I don't speak for our Board of Education. So when they made that proclamation, I don't know what that was based on.
Okay. Well, can you take that message back to the school district that by the city renewing the contract with IMEA and using the member directed options that are in that contract, the city can be far cleaner than even the school district's own goals, and it'll be done much sooner than 2035.
Yeah, happy to share that. And we'd be happy to way out, perform the benchmark that we set at 35%.
Which could be renewing the contract with IMEA then.
Sounds like it.
Okay, all right. So these are some of the elements that I think we're missing in the analysis, that as a living document, if you would bring some expertise in that maybe wasn't there before, some of these new facts will come out and perhaps it will change the outcome of how the school district feels. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I'm done.
Thank you. Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, no, just to,
Oh, I thought you were asking a question.
yeah, no, just to echo what Mr. Plar was saying with regard to the MDR. Hopefully, you'd be, when you bring this back, I had said similar things with, after, I believe it was Mark Walensky came in, asked city council not to renew, and I had brought up, us potentially being better off with the MDR option as far as cleanliness goes. So hopefully, if you do bring it back, it'd be a reminder to him and the rest of the board for that matter.
One more statement from me in relationship to this, and I think it's part of the learning process. At the school now separated from the school board, but everybody's under 203. And the school board has said this is a priority.
Yes.
However, we all have to be careful about when someone says this is a priority, then puts you in a position, which is what you're finding out right now, that maybe not all the information was reviewed. And maybe there was coming from a point of view. There's a difference between having your decarbonization plan going on versus promoting not to go forward with an IMEA thing, contract, thank you, IMEA contract, versus we have to think about what's good for all of Naperville. So all of Naperville right now basically is paying approximately 30% less for electricity. This is not only about, I feel good because I'm going to save the planet and the environment. It's also how people live in this city. And that's something we also take into account. Not at the expense that it's going to be tear down the world and we're going to burn, because of the fact there are there are many scientists that disagree with what one side says versus the other. And this is, again, the balance I think you need to help everybody make a decision that is based on facts and again, balance, pro and a con. That's why this is happening right now. You know, so when the school board becomes, this is what we believe, you know, but is that what's best for Naperville? That's an issue. Things always can look good and aren't necessarily good. This is why this is a touchy subject, and that's why we have to definitely base our decisions on what are facts. This city spent over $200,000 for consultants to make presentations to this board and to give us both sides. And there were experts that recommended that we would benefit from a different way than what some people are saying now is they don't want to do it. So this is just a word that we appreciate what you're doing. And I think that you have a great opportunity to make a lot of this clear for a lot of people. That's good. It's a good thing. Good is not always easy.
Sure.
Yeah. So any other questions? Without any other questions?
I have a question.
I really normally don't, when you have an opportunity to make a presentation to here, and then normally the procedure is I would, or someone from the board would call you back after you made a presentation to us. That's the procedure. If I now do this, where maybe I had 50 people here and I'm setting a precedent that I'm saying, you can go ahead and ask a question because there's only 3 of you here, that's okay. But if I set that precedent, I am now not doing what I said. We have a process for it. We made that process on purpose. You knew what our agenda was, that 203's going to make their presentation. If there was something that you wanted to, that was important to you, you would have been able to give your 3 minutes in front of everybody and make that point.
Right.
I'm going to refuse you just asking a question during this time.
Because I'm with Nest, is that why?
Absolutely not. And I take that as an insult because of the fact, I don't care who you are or who you represent. I just told you what the point of making an established precedent. That's what I said. So you feel good about that. That's good for you. I really don't care who you represent. I'm just saying we have a precedent for doing this. If you thought it was an important point for you to make, you should have, and you could do that at our next meeting. You could come here and do a 3-minute presentation. And if it's not enough for you, someone can even ask you to come up and ask you more questions so that you could do that. So thank you, and no thank you. Any other questions within the board? No? Very good. Then we will move on. Next, and thank you again. Doing that. Very nice. Next, our reports. And what I'm going to recommend with the reports is that we have, this is where alphabetical is not necessarily the right. We're going to do this where W comes before E. And we're going to have our water utility reports first so that you will be able to adjust your schedule. The later part. So,
What page are we on then?
okay, so with the reports, it will be 26-0451.
What page of the PDF?
Page
Page of the PDF is that? That's what I think,
71.
Roger's asked. Oh, no, there's.
No, there's no pages.
Yeah, 73.
That's why I had to separate them out.
I have a universal number.
No, you don't have it.
If you-
Electronic.
Oh.
It's about this far from the end.
Yeah, I see it here. It's about
Yeah, it's really.
80% of the way through, maybe even 90.
Perfect.
Thank you.
See, that's partially the reason why he's asked me to go first. I'll be quick. Darrell Glennis, Director for the Water Utilities. You have two reports tonight from me. You have the financials and you have the operational dashboards. And in keeping with the exception reporting themes that's desired by this group, the big item to note on the dashboards is year to date, our water main breaks are down from this time last year. Last year we had around 35 breaks. I think we're around 34 this year. Last year was sort of one of the more busy times we've had, breaks on the distribution system. So it's nice to see that kind of be a little bit less at this point this year. Fingers crossed for the rest of the year. Otherwise, the rest of the reports, nothing really out of the ordinary. So it's pretty standard. So no exceptions to report there, but be happy to answer any questions. I think we provided the PDFs of all the various dashboard interfaces and there's some visuals there that I think make it a little bit easier to digest. So I'll be happy to answer any questions on these dashboards.
So from
Yes,
your,
go ahead.
I think previous, I think it was 2 meetings ago, you gave us a pretty long presentation. So you attribute the reduction in the water main breaks to the replacement program that's proceeding?
Yes, and I think it's, we're bearing fruit. We are ramping up the miles of water main we are replacing. When I got here in 2019, we were doing about 1,000 feet. And now we're up to like 5 miles and 6 miles of water main. So we are replacing the worst of the worst. So we are getting rid of the bad stuff. And so hopefully it's paying dividends. And in fact, our non-revenue water last year was around 3%. And when I got here in 2019, it was around 19%. So I think it's starting to show some dividends as well. So
Thank you.
great. Moving to the financials. In your packet, you have a report from Ray Munch, our Director of Finance. At a high level, the revenues are right on target. I'm actually looking at the financials dashboard through March, and we're at so 0.1% variance over projections versus actuals on the revenue side, which is great. And on the expense side, we're at 94% of what we expected to spend, so we're slightly under. But we do have a couple areas I want to point out that we're kind of are keeping an eye on. And the big area in the operating line item is overtime. Our burn rate on overtime through the first 3 months is over the 25% threshold. And so that's something that we want to keep an eye on. A lot of it, in my opinion, is due to vacancies. We've had a significant amount of vacancies, especially down in Springbrook. And those shifts are, it's a 24-hour day facility. And those shifts are being covered with overtime. We've had vacancies due to retirements, individuals out, FMLA and other things. So we've had to cover those shifts with overtime. So
that portion of the budget is over the year-to-date projection. And I think that's primarily the reason is the vacancies. So we'll keep an eye on it. Our busy season is the summer, obviously, as that's to produce the most amount of water and treat the most amount of wastewater. But the good news is our revenues are on track. It shows that I think our water model and consumption models are also on track as well. So fingers crossed that we continue hitting those targets for the rest of the year on the revenue side. So we do anticipate a large bond issue middle of the year to feed our capital program. It's a big investment, and we anticipate a large bond issue later this year to help us pay for those things. So I think you got a nice overview of Springbrook last time. So that's still going great. We're still on track. In fact, we're finishing up some engineering on the North Plant phase, and hopefully we'll get that out to bid at the end of the year or early next. And that's sort of the last big phase that we're looking at. So far, everything's going to plan down in Springbrook. So fingers crossed. So that's really it. You know, on the exception side, is it too much? It's still early. So I'm cautiously optimistic that we're having a good year so far. So happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Yes.
Is there an update on the Nepetas permit? Anything new?
Still waiting for the public comment period to start. We've been in negotiation with the IPA and the environmental action groups, and we think we're really close. And so I can't really say much, but I think it's gonna be good news for us on the permitting side. As soon as we know more, I'll let you know more. Okay.
Thank you.
We're still operating under the old permit,
Correct.
which is technically expired. We're in negotiations with the IPA, so hopefully be out to public comment soon. So.
Is there any, I don't know if we're not involved at all really with the construction on Book Road as it relates to the water?
Yeah, that's the DuPage Water Commission. That's their water leak project to get Lake Michigan water to Oswego, Montgomery, Yorkville. I think they are behind schedule a little bit. I think that's a pretty big project.
Yeah, well, that's
It's some heavy construction, and I think they've run into a couple of snags, but I think for the most part, the overall plan is still, because they got different phases that they're doing. So I think they're, getting all the other phases ready. I think they've already maybe even got to bid on one of the phases, other phases. So I didn't have an update from them. Their website is usually where I get that information, and there wasn't much of a construction update posted to the site, so I didn't have much to give you. But maybe for the next time, there'll be more meat on that bone for to share with you.
I would hope so, because yes, there's no option. They have to come through Naperville. It would be nice because it is disrupting a lot.
Book Road's
of
a
people.
major detour.
That's a major detour, and it's
Yeah.
nice if they kind of said, this is what's going on, and just to give people.
I do believe we shared those links with you to their website in the last reporting we did. I think we had those links, but I'll send that to you via email as well. So that way, if you're interested, you can always click and see what they're up to. That's usually where I get my information from as well.
Yeah. Yes, please,
Uh,
Michelle.
Can you remind me, Daryl, how does it work with it going through? Like, are we like getting any funds for that? Or like it's just as a partner and as a member?
As a partner, if you read our agreements with the DuPage Water Commission, you're obligated to cooperate. And I think they use the words like shall and must. So we, while we are partners, we really work with them on some of the design features and trying to reduce disruption the best we could. They initially wanted to do more directionally drilling, but the bids came in too high, and that was sort of cost prohibitive. So they went to open cut, which wasn't our preferred approach. But at the end of the day, the bids were what they were, and so that's why that portion of Book Road is shut down. So we did have some input on, routing and the detours and things of that nature to make sure that we felt like the school buses and other things were protected, and detour traffic made sense. Their traffic control plans made sense. But we really don't have too much authority on dictating means and methods. So.
And then can you remind me, I know, aren't we like our partnership, was it Lyle or Warren, but where are we processing some of their effluent, right? And they pay us to do that, or who?
Yeah, so we have an IGA with Warrenton and we process their wastewater and they pay their proportional share.
And are those funds just go back to the water utility to help cover costs, or is there like, does it go back to like the larger city budget, or does it remain?
No, it stays in the enterprise fund. So it stays with us in the water utility fund. And in fact, we just negotiated a third amendment to the IGA, where we basically have them sort of paying much larger contributions on capital because we're borrowing a lot of money down in Springbrook. So we wanted to, in fact, they just wrote us a check for $1.25 million and as part of the IGA update. And every year they're making that payment of 1.25 million, which is a significant increase over their past capital payments. So it's in line with their proportional share. So yes, they are making those payments and it goes into the fund and it stays in the fund to offset our expenses.
And overall, within both electric and water, it's just whatever's paying it, like, there's not like a profit on either of these, right?
Well, we do
It's
have
like,
chargebacks from our enterprise funds to the general fund for things like human resource activities, IT, legal.
sure, yeah,
But
yeah,
other than that, our revenues stay in the enterprise funds.
okay, and the same is true for electric.
Yeah.
Yes, and no general funds come to the electric
Correct.
utility.
Operate
Right.
separately.
Right, so we're designed to be self-sufficient
Correct.
from our rates. But as Daryl said, we do send money back to cover costs for other operating.
Yeah, sure.
Things that, if we were a standalone utility, we'd have to have those, our own HR
In-house.
department or,
In-house.
yeah.
Totally.
So we just sort of
Website,
contribute to that.
marketing.
Right.
Yeah.
Facilities as well, pay public works to make more facilities.
Really, Naperville's very lucky with the enterprise zone concept that we do here.
Well, typically, it's a common practice to keep water and sewer utilities. It's my experience. I never worked in a city with a city-owned electric before, but it operates the same way. Typically, you do see communities, so sometimes they actually will use that enterprise fund to feed the general fund a little bit more than they should, but not here in Naperville. It's pretty clean, so.
And I believe it probably makes you more efficient as a result of
Well, it
that.
certainly helps with your rate.
Responsible.
Certainly helps from a rate planning standpoint, right? Because it's predictable. We understand what it is. We have these chargebacks, which are based on formulas that are reasonable and make sense. So we can project out and make sure that we have sufficient revenues to cover not only costs unique to us, but costs we have to share with the rest of the cities.
Any other questions?
Daryl, this probably isn't gonna lead up to much, but I've been reading about concerns about microplastics and pharmaceuticals and drinking water. I don't know how big that is or if that's usually gonna die out, but is that something that the city needs to be, well, I'm sure you are, but what's your take on that?
Well, operationally, it's not something we have to worry about because we buy our water already treated, right? So Chicago is the primary source of treatment. So any regulation changes on treatment will apply to the city of Chicago. And then we basically keep the water chlorinated, the DuPage Water Commission, and when it comes to us, we keep, the chlorine residual at the right levels. Now we are seeing some discussions about microplastics on the wastewater side as well. So that may be our biggest impact is actually on the wastewater versus the treatment.
I was thinking on the drinking water side, but which would, if that ever got serious, would have to be done in the city,
Correct.
right? But
And those costs
is that
would
even
obviously,
practical? Is it even practical to get microplastics out of drinking water?
yeah, you could do reverse osmosis, it's very expensive at the scale size of the city of Chicago, but there are treatment technologies and they are getting better every year. There's a lot of science and research thrown at these things and they make some significant strides, especially on the PFAS, on the drinking water side. In the last 7-8 years, they made a tremendous strides on finding ways to break that down on the drinking water side. So, since we buy the water already treated, it's operation, not something we have to worry about, but the cost will obviously roll up towards us if there are any regulations put in place around those issues.
So it's just nothing on your horizon at this point in time.
I'm not aware of anything pending on microplastic. I think they're still in that sort of gathering information phase. They have taken action on PFAS in drinking water. We're fortunate that Lake Michigan is a pretty good source. You see a lot of PFAS more in groundwater situations. So that's really not a big concern for us on the drinking water side. But if it does come down and it's a regulatory impact, Chicago will be responsible for implementing the infrastructure, and those costs would roll up to us.
What's the latest on the wastewater treatment side with regards to PFAS and potential requirements from EPA or otherwise to?
We are going to get the permit, most likely a monitoring where we would test for PFAS in the biosolid, but not requiring us to remove things. It's just gathering information on documenting the level of PFAS. So that way the regulators can indicate the size and scope of the problem and then decide, if it's something that needs to be regulated further. So.
When's that start, or has it already?
It's already started, but we anticipate that it will continue with the new permit as well. So. Nothing on the treatment, just sampling and getting information and sharing it with the state defense.
In our discussion, I was just wondering, I never thought about it before, and we are getting our water through Chicago. And is there, by the time it gets here, a double check on the quality of the product we're getting?
Yeah, at every stage, essentially, Chicago treats it, sends it to the DuPage Water Commission. The Water Commission receives it. They analyze it to make sure that it's, has the right chlorine residual. And they send it to us, and we have monitoring stations at the receiving stations and out in the system to make sure that we maintain the right chlorine residual, make sure that we're hitting all of our directions.
Excellent. Okay, so any other questions with water? No. Okay, what I'd like to do is entertain a motion to approve our water utility reports.
Motion to approve it.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Roger, second. Any discussion about what we just talked about? Not hearing any. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is passed unanimously, and you'll be relieved of.
Thank you. I apologize. I have another obligation that I'd like to get to if I could. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Have fun, bro.
See you tomorrow.
Thanks, Gerald.
Thank you. Next, we will have the reports, electric reports.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First, we have our financial activity summary through February 2026. I had to take a brief pause there while I made sure I was in alignment. Nonetheless, as has been asked, kind of anomalies here. High service fees in 2025, like most due to the Pulte Polo Club development, right? So if we think about what these service fees are for, customers that connect to our system are required to pay for all interconnection costs, whether that's a data center, a developer, a single family home, anything like that. Service revisions are all required to be paid for by the end use customer. They're not socialized across the rate base and such. We had Polo Club development. We got $1 million to build those services out. We built those services out. And that's why you'll see some variations in revenues on the service fees. If we look at purchased energy, obviously energy costs are higher. And from a ratepayer perspective, those higher costs are covered in the PPA that necessarily moves up, and it smooths those costs over 6 months. But other than that, everything seems to be on track for this year. Obviously, we are going into peak construction season here in the summer, and hoping to get a lot of cable replacement jobs done. Are there any questions on the financial side? If I may, I'll move right into the system performance metrics. Overall, 2025, 1% increase in energy consumption. Obviously, as you can see, the demand was down from 347 megawatts at our peak hour of the year down to 320 megawatts. The renewable energy program is outlined, and then the ComEd and other energy provider rate analysis is provided here. If we look at from a reliability perspective, we are getting more reliable this year than we were last year. 24 minutes of outage as of last month, as of this month last year versus 2106 for this month this year. I'll talk a bit more about what we're going to start reporting with respect to reliability going forward in our operation report. Are there any questions on the rate comparisons or any of the items within this report?
Are we talking about that slide right there?
That's correct.
If I recall, you did that for prior months as well. Or you went back like 6 months, I think,
That's correct.
kind of that bottom line. Would it be possible to get those numbers like compared to one another on one page?
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So that we can kind of see any trends that are developing.
Or you'd like to,
In those four prices that you calculate there.
would the board like to see a line graph for the year, or would you like to just see the numbers?
I'm happy just seeing like a table
I
of
was gonna
numbers.
say the line graph might be more.
Oh, now I got double the work.
Whatever.
Don't ask questions. That's what I just learned.
I just think it's, just see it, just rather than just seeing one month up there, it'd be useful to see if there's any trends developing.
Brian, I think the answer was yes, both. Just for clarity.
I'll amend my motion to say, would you like to see a line graph?
Or
Or, right? Yes. We will actually, Mayor will do that for us.
If we skip one.
This is the renewable energy, graph that we typically present. As you can see, energy, IMEA purchase energy ticked up slightly. Happy to answer any questions. Okay, hearing none, we will move on to upside down. See that? It's upside down. Had to recover. The operations exception report. I'll spend a few more minutes on this one than I have in the past. This is something new that we're doing that was requested by the board. Kind of highlights of what we've been doing or anomalies or potential service issues, right? So fiber to the home installations, we've seen a lot of requests for locates. So my team took a look at how we can resolve this issue. We don't expect this to be long-term, many years of deployment, but fiber to the home in the city, there are 3 vendors now that are looking to deploy as fast as they can. So we were looking for creative ideas on how to accommodate their aggressive schedules without increasing overall headcount within the utility. One option that we're pursuing right now is having the fiber to the home companies locate our facilities as they go. So therefore, we are working on an agreement with them where they are responsible for 100% of the costs for all of their locating as well as anything that they hit, looking to have an escrow account so that if they hit us, we have a place to very quickly secure funds to replace that, right? So in a traditional setting, we would go out there and locate the provider, whether it be gas company or another utility or anything like that, would do their work. If they hit us, we determine that it's a billable offense. For example, if we're marked properly, within the Julie rules, we would send them a bill. We're looking for ways that we would have bypass that whole process and just get paid immediately for anything that was hit in exchange for them to be able to locate our facilities and not have to wait for our locators. So one of the concerns I have with this, and we're trying to mitigate that, is if those locators are sloppy and we start getting a lot of hits, it impacts my reliability to our customers, right? And so we're working with our legal department to try and work through those and make sure that the electric utilities reliability doesn't suffer while we are allowing the fiber to the home companies to deploy as fast as possible.
Brad, are there independent third parties that can locate,
Absolutely.
not your people or the, you know, the person, the fiber installer?
There are.
It sounds like that's kind of the fox watching the hen house when you've got the.
That's
fiber
correct. And that's why I want,
locating.
and that's why I want the financial penalties there.
Yeah, I guess, but,
We've looked at contracting out the services. We've looked at using our existing contracts with Mead, things like that. The problem that becomes is that they can do electric, but they can't do water, or they can't do another, you know. How do you find the water for services, things like that? It becomes a bit complicated. I think we'll end up in a good spot with, having them locate their own facilities, but have a real quick way to recapture if they don't. You know, it's in their best interest to keep getting permits as fast as they can, right? So,
but I think you're saying this is a fiber installer that's gonna have to locate water,
yes,
electric,
that's correct.
cable, whatever.
That's correct.
I mean, do they have the expertise to do that?
They're outsourcing it to a dedicated locating company.
Oh, so that's kind of the same thing.
Transformer movement. So I think we have previously discussed here that, our transformer, also known as 30XA, at our tollway substation had failed last year with an internal fault. Looked at many different options, worked with procurement, worked with our engineering staff. What we determined was the best option was to take, a transformer from another station to replace that one, and then move our system spare to that first substation. That is in progress right now. They are filling, the transformers, one of the transformers with oil right now. And so we hope to be, back to normal configuration by the end of April, with those moves. And the system spare, is expected to be delivered in about 3 years. So that has already been procured and gone through council. Our GIS system, while not necessarily old, those of you that live in the software space understand that manufacturers get to decide when they go end of life on a product, and they get to send you a letter that says we are going end of life on a certain date. We have received the end of life on a certain date, and we are working on upgrading our GIS system in concert with the city IT's GIS system, such that, you know, we had talked previously about kind of those chargebacks or what the city provides for the electric utility. While I have my own GIS staff that's, there to maintain the utilities model and make sure that all of our locators can locate our facilities and all of our facilities get mapped properly. The city generally runs the GIS system for the city, and so, the electric utility, is in the process of upgrading our systems to be compatible, with the next generation GIS, which is also known as the Esri Arc Online, I believe it is, which is, the utility model, the utility network instead of the geometric model. But that's in progress. That'll take a few years.
All of your utilities pretty much digitized.
Absolutely.
Locations.
Absolutely.
You don't rely on any kind of drawings or paper anymore.
We rely on paper because, our system control room draws on the paper to track what the work that's going on, but all of our assets are in, all of those maps are derived from the GIS. Yes, we don't have any paper copies that are the only copy. Everything's in our GIS system.
Can the old system migrate to the new system uneventfully, hopefully?
That is the goal. We have hired consultants to do that. We have a lot of software packages that we use for design. And those software packages have to be ported over to the new system. So all utilities across the country will have to do this, that use the Esri system at some point over the next, I would say, 3 to 5 years.
What's the cost for this new system?
Probably all in about 2 million.
Hey, Brian.
Yes,
What would be a good meeting without a question about AI?
the next one,
What's that?
the next meeting.
No, I guess that's a good answer. On this note of doing all these software and hardware upgrades, I admittedly am uninformed on what the city itself might be doing from implementation of any kind of AI agentic type technologies. But with regards to the things that you are implementing, upgrading for the utility, do you have any strategies developed yet for implementing some kind of AI, or are you kind of reliant on what vendors might be bringing or populating within their software?
I would say the latter right now. As a city, we're working on an AI strategy. Right? So to date, it's what can a vendor bring to us and show value with AI? As a holistic in the citywide, we're looking at, AI from a policy perspective.
Is that public information?
I'm sorry?
Is that public information? The
Is.
city's
It has not been developed yet.
under discussion.
Yes. I think from a utility perspective, I think AI has a very interesting spot in load forecasting, as also once we get into the DERMS and grid control. A lot of that, I think, will become more relevant. From a restoration perspective, a lot of our schemes are automated and in a linear fashion, and that's probably better from a safety perspective of our crews.
What about from a predictive, like maintenance failure? Is that where you're still relying more on like the manufacturer of the technology or the hardware to bring that kind of intelligence to bear?
We do. I would say a lot of that right now is driven by asset inspections. For a long time, we were not consistent with asset inspections. We've gotten a lot better over the past 2 years, having all of our assets inspected. I don't think it's out of the realm of those software vendors. We currently are in the process of looking at a service request system for the electric utility. We found recently that our existing software system will be moving to the cloud. And a lot of the functionality that we have designed into that is not going to be available in the cloud. So we are currently looking at a new warehouse inventory and service request work order system. So it's out there. SCADA outage management system and DERMS. This is probably one of the more exciting projects that customers will see over the next few years. Our SCADA system is how we get telemetry and all of our control points, both from and to our substations. That system has been upgraded over the years, but looking to replace that with something that could be more integrated with our outage management system. As part of the GIS system going end of life, our existing outage management system also goes end of life because it's heavily dependent upon the GIS system. So we have procured a new SCADA outage management system and DERMS. I think we've talked about DERMS at this forum before, but effectively it'll allow us to do a virtual power plant. It'll allow for what customers allow us to do, integrate thermostats, batteries, solar arrays, things like that, and kind of be the RTO of Naperville of the future. So
Down to the actual home level.
that's correct. That is the overall vision, is that we're able to control batteries. I think the bigger play, right? So obviously in other parts of the country, people control hot water tanks and things like that. We don't necessarily have the electric hot water tanks here that I think gives us scale to make some movement and load. But thermostats, battery storage, vehicle to grid, things like that, all be controlled by our DERMS system.
That'll be effective when?
We get through our SCADA system, we get through our OMS system, and then we get through our DERMS system. I would say the earliest is 2027, 2028 for that, for the thermostat control.
This is all voluntary, correct?
That's correct. By the customer bill of rights.
How many, maybe it was one of your charts that I missed, but have many people in Naperville installed big batteries in their house as part of?
Mayor?
I would say about 47, 48 installations that they
Like a
have.
power wall?
Power wall, yes.
Is it usually a power wall?
Yes. They get the combo, with the Tesla solar and
Yeah.
power wall.
Yeah, so about 50 maybe, roughly. So this system, your DERM system, we would take control of the batteries if the person
Yes.
was willing to do so?
That's correct.
Is there incentive to do that?
We're working on that. In our rate study, the rate study consultant had proposed, effectively fees and credits for that. But I think we're a bit off timeline, right? So that'll be covered in the next rate study as well. But the rate study, we did have the rate study contemplate that. I would say from a perspective right now, our utility billing system is probably one of the more limiting factors in providing credits, both on the thermostat side, anything with respect to demand response.
I mean, personally, I think this is a good thing. You know, if somebody voluntarily wants to put a solar panel on their roof and a battery in their basement, more power to them. If they're willing to donate that battery power to the grid on a voluntary basis, I think that's also a good thing. We need more voluntary efforts like that rather than mandated. Is there some sort of way to incent these people to do, or incent new customers to do this? Like maybe through the renewable program that we have?
Yes, the renewable energy program is now managed by Ben and the sustainability group. I did have some conversations with Nest when Carl was around about potentially putting batteries into the renewable energy program.
Yes, that seems like it could fit well, right? I mean, do you think there'll be big dollar incentives for a household to participate in this? I mean, is it gonna be hundreds or tens of dollars? I mean, what do you see the economic value of somebody donating their battery to you?
I think probably tens of dollars a month, right?
Would probably be based on storage, like,
Yeah, right. But and that's where my tens of dollars per month is based on what reasonably is going in these days.
yeah, like, I'm thinking like the thermostats, like ComEd, their program. Like if they were to call a peak event and you had opted in and they'd scale back your thermostat, it could be a few dollars. I think the highest in general was like $20 for an
Highest I've ever gotten is 11. Right, so.
Because it serves a lot of purposes, or
Yes,
helps a lot of things,
that's
other
right.
than just saving some money to that customer, right?
Right.
It helps.
There's value to the utility, there's value. Tollway substation work, if you remember, large project going on at a tollway substation, mostly related to salt spray on the 34,000 volt infrastructure that's out there. Recently, we released a bid, our second release of the bid for the control house to be built, came in about 10 times engineering cost. And so we are currently working with procurement to rebid that. One of the things we heard was our timeline was too aggressive, so we're going to work on, reducing the aggressiveness of the timeline. Well, I'm sorry.
How does that happen? I mean, is it because things infiltrate? Is the salt and everything in?
Yeah, so what we were finding is that the salt spray from I-88, because this substation is on the south side of I-88. Several years ago, Nicor went through and cleared out a lot of the brush that was on the south side of I-88 because they have a large transmission main there. So they got rid of all the trees and foliage that was on top of their transmission main because they wanted to be able to access it immediately. Getting rid of that foliage likely got rid of a lot of the salt spray lands on the foliage, not on my 34,000 volt bus. What we ended up seeing happen was when it was cold outside, the salt spray combined with the sun would cause icicles to form that had a lot of salt in there. And then it would flash over and then we would lose one section of the bus. And then the second section of the bus would fall shortly after. And then we would clean it off, re-energize it. The same thing would happen the next day, just because it's impossible to clean all of the surfaces. You can clean all the insulators, but to clean all of that aluminum bus is almost impossible. So we've done a couple of things. We do routine inspections. Our guys go out there, break off the ice, we'll de-energize, we'll break the ice off of it. We also had some companies come out and spray with silicone over the insulators such that when the snow and the ice melts, it doesn't allow the icicles to form as easier because it kind of just drips off. So we've had good luck, but the long-term solution is to move that 34,000 volt bus indoors.
We also planted trees along the fence as well.
That's true, yes.
For them
Yep.
to grow.
Yep.
So I was just saying, indoors or covered somehow in that
Right.
location.
Right.
So you don't move everything.
So we're moving it indoors. Transmission pole painting work. I realized some poles around the town, the large transmission towers, the steel poles look, horrible. We have a ongoing, kind of dispute with one of our pole painting contractors. For a long time, we were not able to get anyone to come in and paint those poles. They have to, at least along the north side of I-88, they have to be painted while at least one side is energized. Obviously, there's working conditions and things like that that kind of limit the amount of bidders you have in projects like that. So recognize that poles are rusted around town. Our contractor has said they'll probably be back later in 2026 to patch up what needs to be patched up.
What happened? Why did they do such a terrible job? Like, were there not a lot of other bidders? Like, why did we?
We get exactly one bidder.
Okay, okay.
Is that just an aesthetic issue, not a structural issue?
That's correct.
It's just to make them look good.
That's correct. What we are going to try with this round is painting them differently. So we'll be moving from white poles to a more gray pole. What we've been told by some paint manufacturers is if they were allowed to prime the pole with black zinc, the paint would last longer. So we are going to allow them to try that. So where you put a black zinc coating on the pole, turn the pole black, and then paint it white, which actually turns out to be a light gray color.
And we didn't do that the first time because it's more expensive.
Because we didn't know about it.
Oh, okay.
Yep, this is long hours with paint manufacturers, painting contractors, new painting contractors. So yes,
You learned a lot about paint.
That-
That's-
yes, that's correct. That's correct. There was also a long time edict of white poles because it matched everything else, but we gotta try something differently here. We can't just continually every 2 years spend $500,000 painting poles and having them get rusty. So I gotta try something different here. And then city dispatch finance call center changes. We'll be likely moving to an outsourced call center for our utility outage calls. And then we received the diamond level reliable public power. Actually, Mayor did all this. He should talk about it.
It's American Public Powers Association, which they have like more than 2,000 members. It measures the utility on 4 categories: reliability, safety, workforce strength, workforce development, and system improvement. And the duration of this process took almost 4 months, and we were able to score 99 out of 100 points. So that's why we received the diamond level. Same thing happened for last year for the safety award as well. We have received the diamond level as well.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Thanks.
Excellent.
Utility board's doing a good job.
Yeah.
Mayor did an excellent job with all that paper.
He had to have something to work with.
Yes. And then we participated in the American Public Power Association line worker rodeo where we sent some folks down. And they test their skills against the best in the country and get some training, different means and methods of doing works. Yes. Mhm. That's all I have for that. And then PJM transmission bills and IMEA board meeting minutes are included.
I have a comment on the board meeting minutes.
Yes.
That for those that may not have read them, there's a statement in there that says that IMEA's energy portion of the billing that they charge their customers is down 6% from 2014. That's 6% from 12 years ago. Lower cost energy from IMEA. Did I read that right?
Yes.
Remind me how they do that again? How energy is cheaper 12 years later?
Excellent management, excellent productivity out of their plants.
I think that's information that more people need to know. Personally. As we embark on, our city's decision on whether to renew with IMEA or not.
I think I was just gonna want to reinforce that because I was thinking the same thing, that when I'm looking at statistics and things and I'm seeing the cost going down, and then we're curious, why is the cost going down? And the board minutes are reinforcing that. That is a big deal. Most places do not have their costs going down
Over 12 years.
over 12 years, consistent.
Cheaper now than 12 years ago.
Yeah, that's important for I think, the residents of Naperville and for the PUAB somehow to get that out.
Do we know
Part of,
that is, and is that expected to maintain or keep going down?
I would
going
say a
forward?
large portion of that is the debt is being paid down on Prairie State as well.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
The debt on Prairie State is being paid down.
very good.
Well, there's other issues there too, like beneficial reuse of fly ash, right? I mean, they're selling the fly ash.
They're trying to sell all the byproducts.
Right, because we discussed this once before, and you discussed this beneficial reuse of these byproducts that the freight costs a little bit, at least.
Well, they're recycling everything. Basically, there's nothing that they're not recycling. Plus the efficiency of the burner where they burn coal is high efficiency,
They're super
which
critical
is
units.
not, which is never considered when they compare coal to coal. Coal to coal generators are not the same. It's what, how you're built. Again. It sounds
No,
like,
our overall rates are not going down because transmission costs are increasing rapidly.
That's correct.
Look at the bar charts, it's still going up, but that's primarily transmission costs. And I've always thought that that's kind of out of IMEA's control, so to speak, in some respects. And transmission costs, PJM, are rising very rapidly as well.
And transmission charges are associated with, you know, the rate of return plus the cost that transmission owners come up with to maintain their infrastructure.
consistent for everyone.
There was an interesting statistic I saw as well. I don't know if you folks get a publication called Heat Map. Heat Map comes daily to me in my inbox, and it's a pro-renewable entity. It's a newsletter, and they have a new website that they just opened up last week, as a matter of fact, where you can go and look at retail, what people are paying retail rates for anywhere in the country, by county, by zip code, by state. It's quite remarkable. It starts with a big map and you can drill down to it. And I looked at that, and I looked at DuPage County. And according to Heat Map, and this is a Heat Map MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology collaboration. So it's got some beef behind it. Look at DuPage County, which presumably would exclude Naperville from its analysis. Over the last 3 years, retail rates to everybody in DuPage County is up 45%. And I pulled out my Naperville utility bill from 3 years ago, calculated what I paid all in compared to just last month, and my Naperville rates went up 16%. So if you believe Heat Map MIT's website, DuPage County up 45%, Naperville up 16%, which is in line with IMEA's rates decreasing remarkably over the last 12 years. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Any other?
I don't.
You've exhausted your reports.
I have.
We've exhausted our questions to you.
I have one other question,
Go ahead, Phil.
hopefully not to extend things too long, but given your presentation at council the other night, I didn't catch what the outcome of that was, if anything, in terms of any directives.
Council will be moving forward with the next board presentations. Joint action agencies will be first. Market participation with asset ownership, market participation without asset ownership, and sale of the electric utility will be the last presentation. One presentation per month. over the next couple of months. It'll be at the first council meeting of the month. Joint action agencies will be next. We'll explore all ranges of joint action agency participation, including creation of our own joint action agency. Council approved I'll call it the pinwheel of topics to be discussed on each major topic.
And what's the expected outcome after reviewing all of those?
There'll be a workshop held in September, likely.
Workshop does what?
We will seek guidance of council before we have that workshop, but in general, I believe it'll cover mission and strategy going forward.
And how does the timeline of that line up with some of the, I guess, the IABA triggers around, there was a transmission, I think, milestone and then
Pseudo time.
the pseudo tie, and what was the other one? Remind me what the other.
We're likely okay. This pseudo tie was probably the largest one. I think the first decision that needs to be made is in general, do we create our own joint action agency or do we start negotiating with a new joint action agency for participation? I think the second one is starting to talk about asset ownership, right? Those are probably long lead time, long discussions. But, you know, from an IMEA perspective, there is no offer on the table to renew.
That was my next question. That's because that's black and white over, but are you at liberty to say, do they still have a willingness to negotiate, consider?
I don't know.
Conversations?
I don't know. Staff was told, directed to no longer negotiate, so.
So before we go any further in that, because I want to go deeper into that, I'd like to approve your reports and not put them together. Keep that separate. And I'd like to have a slight 10-minute adjournment and then go back into that discussion. I think that's important. Since we just had a city council meeting, I'd like to get the impression of people and I want to have a discussion with everybody about it also. So, do I hear a motion to accept the electric reports?
Motion to accept the electric report.
I second it.
Second. Any discussion regarding the reports, not what we discussed just now? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, those reports are approved. Before we go any further, and discuss, that might be, I guess it's hard to tell now, technically a continuation of old business. Or are we going into new business if we discuss city council?
I think you want to go into new business.
New business, all right. So, I'm moving, for us to adjourn for 10 minutes. Since some of you have been able to walk out, I cannot walk out. Let's adjourn. And, then, we'll come back into it, a new business, and we'll discuss. Do I have to, have a motion for that or no? Adjourn? Yes, I do.
I think you just take a recess.
And,
I don't think.
Just taking a recess.
I think
I'm in a recess, not adjourn, a recess.
We don't need a motion.
Say adjourn.
That's okay, no, this is a recess, no, it's not legal.
Oh, early.
That would have been a real
Whoopsie.
mistake.
Back each other up.
Too bad.
Thank you.
in session here. I'd like to bring the meeting back to order. And this part of the meeting now, we will start with new business. This is new business other than the presentation. So that everything that we're going to bring out today will be a new business situation. So with new business, there was trying to think here. There was another issue regarding well, I'll just continue with the issue that we ended that blended into the last the report section. In new business, there, as we know, we just recently had a city council meeting and which covered the issue regarding IMEA and how that is to be reviewed. And of course, this the Utility Advisory Board is heavily involved as far as reviewing information and having an impact. And due to my health, I missed a meeting where there was discussion and concern by the members that was the city, did the city have a plan? Did the city expect how they express how they were going to analyze the information? And what came to mind after listening to the meeting and the discussions that happened afterwards is that PUAB Advisory Board was established as subject matter experts to provide assistance to our city council. And the process has not reflected that to the expense of the city. Does expect that their city council has access to information and analyzes the information that we're talking about. This is very technical information. And which was being deflected in a frustration to the members here that I think shouldn't be ignored. And I think that it is important that at least there is some discussion on the city council's point. And I'm not looking at you saying not for the participation of the PUAB in this. And the participation is to help in the interpretation. Just saw a presentation by District 203, and there was a lot of non-technical information going on that I don't blame anybody. I just think that it's our job to at least say, if we're going to be doing these things that impact this city and that support people saying we shouldn't do something that might be at the expense of the city, then that's not good. I don't think it's the part and the place where you have different parts of the city that rule or that undermine what the city itself is trying to do. And in particular, what the city council is responsible to do. Thank you. To make something available the best possible way for the citizens. They expect us to give them the best product at the best price and to understand all the issues that surround it and put those issues in perspective. That's, I think, very important. So in that discussion and in that hearing, from what I have been listening to, I want to here pass out to everybody here. Where I have it now. Excuse me. Okay. Here. Okay. what I'm passing out to the members, and I'm sorry, I don't have a copy
No
for
worries.
you guys, but you really don't want to have a copy of this anyway. This is a memorandum. No. Does everybody have a copy of it? Our members here? So this memorandum, I followed the format that the city recommends. And this is something that is basically, I've been percolating with this for a while. To direct staff to develop, this is basically what this is all about. To direct staff to develop a strategy to determine major trends affecting energy and capacity prices for the future power purchases in Naperville and present recommendations on the primary available options. So I want to ensure that the subject matter experts here in Naperville, that the city of Naperville happens to have in the PUAB, has a vehicle to be able to express ourselves from the information that we have. Now, some people say, oh, we're gonna have to start all over. No, we've spent $200,000, as I've said earlier, to have consultants make presentations. Is that the only information we should consider? No. If there's new information or something we should review, then we should include that. But it should be in perspective to what? I'm not saying let's search the whole world and come up with something here. This is not something that is an unknown. A lot of people have already had established positions on these things. Technically, I'm not talking about politically, emotionally. I'm not talking about any of those things. I'm talking about the technical information that relates to that, because that's really what we should be information on. And we should review it. And we should have some discussion. Now, it's difficult for us to have discussions and not violate the Open Meetings Act. So the only time we have an opportunity to discuss something like this is during our meeting, which is difficult to do. Now, we do individually have access to all the information, and we can access the information that the Naperville Electric Utility has access to, and staff is basically going to be reviewing, and as Director Growth presented, City Council is going to be reviewing this information. And they have in the past gotten information or recommendations or comments from organizations other than a 3-minute presentation by me at the council meeting, and only 15 minutes during a workshop, a previous workshop that we had access to present to the city council. Now, we are the designated organization for Naperville on the subject matter expert of whether or not we should be going forward with IMEA or not. It's a difficult thing to think that we get 15 minutes in one thing and 3 minutes during city council meetings, and that's it. I think that somehow the city should include us in this. Are we going to take over what the city staff are going to do? No, not at all. We're going to review what they have and make comments. Our comments are non-existent, other than the way I just described to you, which is not appropriate. And unless the city council has been motivated, I mean, they're kind of being pushed along here. They've opted out to kind of kick the can down the road a couple times with this. And we feel that's a risk. And that's what I was picking up when people are saying, this is a dangerous situation, that there's no plan to go forward and how we're going to do this, other than this, the electric utility director and his people are not to do any more negotiations or discussions with IMEA. Discussions. This seems like you have to do this job and with one hand tied behind your back. And don't talk to the people either. I mean, the one hand behind your back is not having the PUAB, subject matter experts, participate in this process. We're really being edged out. And I think it's not appropriate. That's not the way the mayor expressed to me and to the class that I was in when I first got in here, was that we are the subject matter experts for the city council. And we are to present information to them and to be part of it, part of the process. So that's what that discussion that I heard and that I believe, I agree, that I wrote this. Now, I wrote this as neutral as I possibly can. Not saying we can't make additions to information that needs to be or discussed. Because other than the one time we had a discussion before we voted, we had two presentations and then followed through with a third presentation regarding this issue from consultants. And that's it. And I want us to be able to have more of an input and more of a conversation. So I wrote this in a way that hopefully will say, if we could vote positively on something like this and say, hopefully unanimously, maybe a majority, I don't know. I'm not trying to make this an end product. This is not the end product. What this is intended to do is to allow us to participate and generate more information. Because unless we participate, it's going to be what they find out and what the city council asks about. Now, at the, and I haven't been able to make many meetings because of the fact that I couldn't walk, but I watched on TV and I made notes. And in particular, just this past week, I made my notes about what were the comments and the statements made by the city council people. Someone's gonna say, oh boy, he's gonna really burn them now. No. They asked all appropriate questions for their positions and for what they know about. Not many technical questions, not many things that relate to it. Is the word sustainability going to be included? Things like that. Are we going to be doing, I don't want to read all the notes in particular people, because I was thinking, okay, that's what they know. We should be participating in that, but the only way someone might hear us is if we vote unanimously, really, because that's what everybody says. You got to have a unanimous thing, because if you're going to fight amongst yourselves, it doesn't put any pressure on a city council. I think the city council needs some pressure to say the PUAB should have a more meaningful role in this, and we should be participating and understanding and making comments. It might have to be, and it seems like with the schedule that Director Growth presented at the meeting on Tuesday to the city council, there's time for us to have our meetings and or special meetings to say, this is something. And it could be during our special meeting, some of us say, we have a disagreement, but this is our point that we're trying to make. I think that's very important. And I think we're being left out. And unless we can show some commonality together and say, all this is asking for is not specifically what to say, but that we should participate in it. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. So that being said, and again, I'm not trying to make something that is related to involving the process. We're not going to delay anything. We're not going to do anything other than we have expertise here, and our expertise should be able to be shared. And it's not being shared. So that's my comment, and I'm going to look for comments. I know it's short notice. I did this on purpose because it would, if I gave this out earlier, I'd still be writing. And that's not the purpose of what I'm trying to do. The purpose of this is to let us participate and just get a chance. That's what this is all about. And that's really, I thought, I was thinking, should I stay home? I can't stay home. I gotta come do this. Go ahead, Phil.
My first question is.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry too. I just talk loud. We have to talk loud and we all have to identify ourselves because of the fact that Linda has to transcribe this. And unless we do that, it makes it more difficult for her to be able to say who's talking or who's second or who's whatever. So, sorry, I should have said that earlier, but the point is basically speak louder and say your name. So, yes. Yes.
Bill, so I'm seeking clarification on what you're trying to accomplish
Yes,
for the spirit of this.
yes.
And maybe it's both at the same time. Because what I heard you say was trying to get PUAB, get more recognition and participation. And as I skimmed the letter, the recommendation, it's angling towards basically having the utility staff be able to develop a comprehensive recommendation. Are those two different things, or is your?
Well, as I was listening and the story and Director Groth, you can define that to me. Is that city staff basically does all the work and reviews most of these things.
Right.
And they are Naperville's people that understand that. However, there is nobody to oversee or to make comments about it. There's no one else other than us. And I think there should be someone else to say, have you guys considered this or that? That's all. So, and that's why I'm looking somehow to say whether it's collaboration or whether, however, is the appropriate way to say it.
I guess, I'm sorry, did you have a response to that?
I haven't seen the letter, so I don't.
Oh. Didn't think about that.
Speaking of being.
Yeah. Well, he put us in the dark. I'm putting. I don't, yeah, sorry.
Lou, when, I
Yeah,
guess
go ahead.
while he's reading that, at the last meeting that we were at, kind of started into this discussion, which took us down this path of like, that the city doesn't have an energy plan. They have a city master plan, but not an energy plan. That, I think that's what we were trying to see if there could be spirit to get council to elicit Brian's team to go and develop an energy strategy. What you put in this, and I understand this is like your just first draft.
It is.
I'm wondering,
Where are we? Where are you on it?
I'm just on the recommendation.
Oh, okay, all right.
Sorry, this is Phil talking. I forgot to announce myself.
Yeah.
On the recommendation, should we be more specific and higher level in what we're asking for? In other words, we could go and advocate to the council that we should be able to have a higher voice, but that may not actually change the idea of, I think, what the gap might be, which is just the fact that the city doesn't actually have a plan to guide what should happen. So is it maybe like we should be asking for two things, or just elevating what our ask is and being more specific?
I almost didn't want to be specific about what we were asking on the letter because I didn't know everybody was going to take that. I thought if we at least can get ourselves into the process, because I do remember most of it there was no strategic plan or whatever. I agree 100%. And I was looking more at the end product, not how you get there without a strategic plan or whatever. If we can at least be part of this and at least include because again, the most important thing is what's the final product. But with we could make written recommendations that we could vote on at each one of our meetings to the city and say, we 100% support that there should be a strategic plan to do this. and maybe have some input on what the strategic plan is. It should be.
I think we did have agreement at our last meeting that everyone agreed that there was a concern that there was no
Plan.
energy master plan. So I don't think that's at all like we agreed to that. So I think
All right,
to get
I'm
action,
open,
I
yes.
think to call that out as our ask and our recommendation that the city develop one, and then maybe include that comment that, and we would like to be involved and a part of that. And I think we even talked about what necessarily is included in the strategy plan, like the long-term plan, like we don't,
Prematurely,
yeah,
premature.
right. We're not gonna get into that, but we all agreed we need to have one.
That could be easily, it's like 4 words, that in there. I mean, that we recommend that this should be part of it.
And I think in some ways, like what you presented to city council, that pinwheel kind of started to talk about like what's important there, but like it would include things like, I mean, like what is our stance on batteries and solar and potential generation, and what is our long term, like, like we talked about at our last meeting too, like the city has a city master plan since the 50s. I mean, we were one of the first cities to do it, and we laid out what we wanted to do and we did it, and we've updated it since then. And, we're consistently ranked as one of the top cities. I mean, why wouldn't we do the same for our energy plan?
So you feel it would be more specific or more impactful if we discussed not only that there should be a strategic plan. For example, what is the city's position on the use of battery storage? Or
Yeah, and that's
whatever.
one component.
I'm just
Yeah.
using an example, and I don't want to get, and that's the whole point. I didn't want to have too many examples, because then say, I don't like that one. This is not the place to argue about it. All we want to do is say, this is the process, and it should include things like this.
Here are the general components of, if you Google,
A strategic plan.
a strategic energy plan, there are
Yeah, energy.
tons of examples out there, and it'll, including.
Yeah.
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 I think, a couple of the council people had brought up, maybe it was strategy or worded differently. Not sustainable. It was,
Strategy.
yeah, strategy or goals or something along this. And, I think part of what had directed council, I'm trying to speak for almost everyone here. Part of what had directed staff to come up with the plan of showing basically the different options. The sort of strategy component of it would be done at the end or whatever the workshop will contain, because at least speaking for myself and some of the other folks on council, it's hard to know what a strategy could be without knowing what the options are, I guess you could say.
What potential solutions are.
Right, and I think I'd have to look back at exactly what Councilwoman Gibson said with this example. Hers was better than mine at the time, but I think she gave the example of trying to come up with of a goal or strategy was to have the safest car seat possible, and would have a bubble shield around it and all of this, but that's not really possible, then it's kind of, I don't want to say pointless, but it may be hard to come up with an actual strategy if these are just lofty things that aren't really feasible. So I think,
Yes.
and perhaps what Lou may be asking for here is to as some of these things are presented to council, is to have some input from PUAB. Such as we look at joint, being our own or joining an agency or whatever that may entail, the actual input from PUAB. As we know and have seen these presentations that have had these discussions before, so perhaps something like that may be helpful, but I guess that was with regard to, anyway, my point is with regard to strategy, that's kind of why the direction was to look at the options. I guess, again, and then evaluate them again, well, perhaps evaluate them in September or whatever. So that's kind of why it was done that way. So, but I mean, yeah, I guess I couldn't be here last time, couldn't either, mine did a work, but, again, but, no, I mean, as you saw, at the previous council meeting, it was decided not to move forward with IMEA and provide nothing back except for workshops and reports by the city staff. So that's kind of why it landed the way it did and where it's at as of last meeting. So.
I have a couple other thoughts, one building on that. This is Phil. So one, I guess, Lou, going back to your comment about kind of staying high level from being too specific. I think I also want to make sure that if we're gonna go back to the council, that we're specific enough that they don't go, well, whatever you're proposing to do seems like this isn't any different than what is the work that's already been done. So there needs to be clarity about whatever we're asking for, so they don't think it's just like a rewash of whatever, research or whatever was done. The other thing I think might be in my experience of consulting with large entities of trying to navigate this process of getting to some outcome. I think the thing is slipping past the city is that we don't actually know what the finish line looks like. We can come up with
So what?
What looks like.
what the finish line looks like what's the end thing that we're trying to solve for. The problem statement is not defined. We could spend the next 10 years coming up with different solutions of microgrids and generation and buying power from a bazillion different places. But and I think what we're implying when we say the strategic plan is sort of the instruction manual to get to the end thing. If you're building a Lego, you get the instruction manual out, and then you end up with a thing. Now, I understand like energy production is a livable thing, but we're trying to solve for something that has to have sort of a solution set, and it's going to evolve over time, but we can't design for something that we don't know what we're designing for. And so I think what we probably should also push back on the city is I don't know who all the different stakeholders are when we talk about the city, but we need help from the city determining what to design for. Otherwise, Brian can just spin in circles in a vortex forever trying to come up with something. And there's going to always be a stakeholder group, somebody that's going to say, no, that's not right, or that's not good enough, or it doesn't meet some mark. So I would encourage the group as we think about what we go back and ask the council for is that it start with the end in mind, and how are we going to work towards coming up with something that reaches the end in mind that aligns to the interests of the city and its stakeholders.
I think that's well said. I think that when Nate, when you're talking about the fact that earlier, we already have a format that City Electric is doing or approved to do.
That's correct.
And I was envisioning that we would be going step by step with them. This letter is just to allow us to get there. And I think this letter can do a better job of explaining and supporting the fact of a strategic plan, energy plan, to get to the point where how, what's important to the city. Because it seems like, when you look at mission statements of, city council, to make it affordable for people. That's a big part of it. And there's a lot of people that I know city council would be happy to get, people, that say, I can't afford to go to Naperville. I'd like to. They have good schools or whatever, but I can't afford there because my utilities are too expensive or whatever the issue is. So we should be looking for, it's a significant difference on the cost issue. Everybody seems to be either ignoring it or some people are misrepresenting. I think our job is to say, this is what we've seen and this is what we think this will get us to. If we follow the 12 or the 8 bubbles there, that we should be able to use each one of those as a thing why we support it or don't support it. A particular end product for that particular bubble or group of bubbles. You know what I mean? I mean, we might say it's crazy to think that we're going to build facilities in time, and that's going to be a lot cheaper than what we have now, or what we could get from someone else in a different location.
Again, it goes back to what are you designing for? Do you want 100% renewable energy? Do you want 100% self-generation?
What are you producing? Yeah, is it for cost?
But-
Or are we doing it for reliability and resilience?
Absolutely.
Where,
Yes,
you know,
yes. And we should be able to support each one of those. Each one of those things we should be able to support for cost and resiliency. And this is the situation that I think we're seeing information. There's many sources of energy. And I don't think we get the best buck for some of them. Our best use of money doesn't give us the best long-term return compared to what's going on, whether the weather's severe or not. We had that winter storm here, and there were a lot of sources of energy that weren't working during that process. If we're gonna, do this or have a combination, or do we need to have, right now, the way we're operating, we don't need batteries. Maybe we should, or depending on where it's coming from, but batteries have a carbon footprint to make. They have to be recharged. They're not a source of energy. I mean, there's ups and downs for both. Yes, we need, just like peaker plants, batteries could be like peaker plants and help us through a tough time. If it doesn't go past 4 hours, or how many batteries you have. I mean, that's up to I think that's our job technically to say, this is feasible. Feasible. Is this feasible or not? To have a car seat with something around it or not? That's not feasible. Is it feasible for us to spend $1 gazillion on batteries? Or should we, is there, or a percentage of it? Or to support peaker plants, or,
maybe this is the right process and maybe after the 4 presentations that Brian puts together, maybe that workshop could be, maybe that's where the energy plan kind of stems out of that. Could that be the right process possibly? Because
yeah,
that-
now you've
up to-
identified.
we've at least identified, and Brian has asked us, please send me all the options,
Yeah.
like let's,
That's
and
true.
then
That's
maybe
true.
that final is where we can all get together. We can be a part of the workshop and we could say, all right, here's all the options. Here's kind of how they weigh in all these various categories. What do we collectively think is the best,
I think
end
that's-
result? Maybe that workshop. could-
That is almost that. I'm not trying to get out of, we're gonna have to redo this for sure. But does it make sense? His options that he gave basically identifies where we're going.
Well, there's I think it does, but
Well,
I
it
still
gives
want to
for,
send you a few.
Yes, and so just to be very clear for, I've asked everyone on PUAB for all of the options. that they can think of so that I can test my presentations against those options, right? That's just my thought that we can group them into 4 categories from what I've known, from what I've seen, all the research we've done, all the research that we've paid for. But I would love for the PUAB to send me, please don't send it to everybody. Please just send it to me and Mayor, so Mayor can compile them. See, I just gave you another job. So that so we can test everything that we do against all of these options.
I guess I just, I don't disagree with that. I see this going down the same path that I watch corporations go down. And you're still trying to solve something and you don't know what the problem is by throwing solutions out there. Now, if there's a finite set of solutions, then that pathway makes sense. But I'm still not clear if the city of Naperville is trying to drive towards a greenhouse gas reduction footprint goal and whether that's measured off of scope 1 or scope 2 or some combination. I don't understand if building flexibility and having storage and that type of DER resources is an important part from a resiliency perspective. You know, so to me, like kind of coming at this with all these, I could give you a 20 pages of different things that we could look at. That's not gonna, that doesn't help us solve what the problem is because the problem statement is still undefined. And maybe the problem is that the city itself is struggling to actually define kind of what its end goals are, and we could help the city more so by trying to help frame that in so that you have a more narrow focus on what options you can use to design to get to that set of outcomes.
You know, Phil, as you were saying that and saying, you know, is it the greenhouse gas or what? If we put all of those things, there has to be basically, what is it that we want? We want the cheapest and consistent electricity. Now, if you want to throw in sustainability as something, what is that sustainability and what responsibility does Naperville have for someone else's sustainability? Do we pay for that or not? Because the point is, okay, for example, IMEA's coal, and there's a lot of carbon, there's all this stuff that that people don't like. Okay, so if that's the case, then how do you get to, that's one of the ends, but the first end is electricity and that it's reasonable financially. That has to be the two things. The other stuff adds money to it. And the other stuff is all part of his bubbles. All of his bubbles got that. Where are we going? We're going for electricity. Why are we going for greenhouse gas? Are we going to determine how much we pay, or the citizens of Naperville pay, to make sure we make people happy about a greenhouse gas? Is that appropriate?
I don't think that's the level of discussion that we're trying to have. I think we're trying to understand how does the city
No, I mean the end product.
establish. Yeah, how the city has to really determine what its end goals are. And if they're making, because things like carbon footprints may play into their risk and financial credit ratings and things like that. So there's real things in the long run that financial companies may look at, for example, with that might be of a stretch, but still the city is the one that has to determine how important those things are to itself. And if they say, you know what, the greenhouse gas, our footprint doesn't matter to anybody, great. Like we can design strategies for that, but I don't think that that's fully known. There is some greenhouse gas goals in the Naperville sustainability plan. Similarly, from a resiliency perspective, let's talk about the PJM grid. We know that there are capacity constraints. We know that we buy our capacity partially and we were exposed to some of the transmission pricing from ComEd because of the physical grid that we're connected to. How is the city of Naperville planning to hedge against that? Because we can talk about buying cheap kWh, electrons, but how are we hedged against those long-term prices or blackouts that they're talking about that could happen? The only way you hedge against that is through flexibility. So do we see that as a real risk? And is that something that the city needs to design for? If so, then that could mean looking at its own generation or flex, DER or something like that. And it's not going to be any one of those. It's probably some combination of all that or different options that would get to some outcome. But we don't know what the priorities are from a affordability, reliability, sustainability, and there's probably another leg of that stool that you would have to start to define the requirements underneath
Resiliency.
resiliency.
Well, but and that's again, is that the purpose of this letter? The purpose of the letter is how deep do we have to be in defining the strategy?
Well,
It's asking, I think it was asking them to develop an energy strategy or
to empower, advocate to Brian to go out and figure out how to develop the strategy that would encompass the outcomes and then all the options of how you could get.
So is that an acceptable strategy, the bubbles that he has? You're saying it's not because we don't have an end, we don't know what the goal is.
those are like scoring criteria for an unknown goal.
See, I don't see the goal as unknown. I think we're making the goal have to have so many parts to it versus, first of all, we're talking about power and all of that. The other things come.
But cheap, resilient, what kind of power? All of those? Is it 50-50 or is it 40-40 and
Well, how
then
do you do
20%?
cheap and resilient and meet everybody else's needs to say it's gotta be carbon? I mean,
maybe we
For example,
don't-
nuclear is not necessarily the cheapest one, but it's the one that
So-
gives you the.
So what, so every option has its characteristics. That's the bunch of circles around the big one. And I don't think we can pick what the mix of attributes that the end state will be are. That's the city council. I think our objective is to facilitate a process with some realism that helps. I mean, with every option, there are benefits and there are costs. And so that's the framework we've got. And what we aren't doing is filling it out. And we aren't, as Phil's saying, there's no top level criteria that we have identified. We're not going to assign the numerical values, the values to that, but these are the criteria that we will be interested in. So I think that's your point. We need to identify the characteristics first as variables of the end state.
Lou, this whole discussion is about how the PUAB can get involved more so in what's going on, right? Because we're frustrated that, we're a PUAB, yet we're kind of frozen out of the discussion, so to speak, right? Nobody's asking us to do anything. But maybe the approach is to ask the city council, what can we do to help? Because we can come up with all the ideas here that we want, but if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? If they don't want to hear from us, they're not gonna. We can do all the talking we want here. They're not going to listen to us. But perhaps we can ask the city council, how can we help in this discussion? If we get a positive response from that, then then I think we've got more of a a reason to do something. Because there's realities here. Our next meeting is May 28th or something like that. I mean,
Well.
it's not like we get together and discuss this stuff, offline. We got to deal with the realities of how often we get together and what can Brian present to us and things like that. So maybe we turn it around and ask and express our displeasure that we're being frozen out of this process. The Mayor Worley told you all these things that he expects from these boards, and we're subject matter experts and respect the opinions, and it's not happening.
I almost see those as two separate concerns. And I agree with both of them, but the not being heard and like we've talked about, are we just, sometimes we just feel like we're a stamp of approval before things go up. But I really felt like there was a call to action of we need a master plan. And so I don't know that those are both within this memo. And I know we want to be involved in the master plan, and maybe that's kind of the overlap of, I think there should be one, we want to be involved but I don't know.
You know, it's true, this is not gonna be a very easy, straightforward, simple presentation in the letter. And I think, what are we trying to accomplish? Both those things. And since it's important that we get in the process, since this process is already broken up. We can, if the city council says, we'd like to have to hear what the PUAB thinks about each one of these areas. Well, that will make it easier for us to have a special meeting. Because we've tried special meetings and we're not, with the city council says we're not talking anymore, we're not talking anymore. Well, is that what the way it is? So I think we need to at least, I don't like asking someone a question that it's easy for them to say, no, we don't need your help, we're good. I would rather say, we can help you this way. I agree with what you're saying. I'm just saying, for us, I'm looking for what's the highest percentage of success to get us included in this is, I want to make it as neutral. I mean, more about the issue, and we are, and that's what we're talking about. We're not going to what the end product is. We're just saying we want to participate in identifying what, and it may be as it goes through the process, like Michelle was saying, that we help them get to an end product. Yes, you have to have a strategic, I think they have a strategic plan. It's what Director Growth has presented to them as far as going there. Is that not it? No?
That's a plan to
ahead,
get
go
to
ahead.
the workshops.
Well, a strategic plan?
Like parallel something to the city's master plan,
Mm-hmm.
documented and
Well,
phased over time.
yeah.
I mean, I guess if it's not inappropriate, we have counsel in the room. We could get,
Yeah, speak for everybody, Dan.
we could get an opinion on, if it's fair, on how we should speak and to what level we should be asking for counsel for, how do we approach this to get the kind of response that we think that we want? One more thought on that is, because if we just go and say, hey, we want to be more involved, they might say, you are involved. That's the whole purpose of your organization. So just keep doing what you're doing, right? I don't know that may or may not change the outcome that we're trying to get. If our outcome is trying to help the city, I think in the spirit of the last meeting when you weren't here was we were trying to accelerate because we understood that there are pending timelines, especially associated with
Yes.
IMEA. And that drives towards like building a strategy that delivers to an outcome sooner, but it still kind of circles back to, if you don't know the outcome you're designing for, then it's hard to accelerate and give people rationale and reasoning why they need to make a decision or do something different sooner. Otherwise, you default to the current timeline, which is like, hey, we've got many years before we need to do something.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, to your point, I had asked this on Tuesday to Brian, if we're to do a joint action, well, what sort of advance would you want? And your response was as soon as possible, right?
That's correct.
Because, I mean, so to your point, that accelerates things, and if you're to do, after Tuesday or whatever, and somehow council says, oh, we don't want to wait, we see the information necessary, and then, oh, we should do this now. And then, but then at the same time, to I guess, everybody's point here, like, what would the input of PUAB be for that? And I think it would be pretty important to have, I don't know, everybody's opinion on how to proceed with that and what should be done with that. But no, I mean, it's like, just from listening to the last meeting though, it's like, I get everyone's concern about, I guess, lack of a plan. So, and I mean, quite frankly, that was also, you know, I'm not speaking for council, just myself, that was also my frustration too, knowing, you know, potential capacity issues and IMEA's deadline and not having any other proposed options, so plus having like these IMEA contract for 2 years, and not, you know, and effectively just sitting on their hands, whether people wanted to do any way you wanted to go with it, just sitting on your hands with it, so. I mean, anyway, to sort of, I guess, hopefully this answers that. Oh, here, before I do that, Brian, so what did you ask of PUAB?
Sorry?
What was your ask of members of PUAB?
I asked them for all of the options that they could think of for the long-term procurement strategy. I've also asked other groups. But what I want to do is I want to be able to test all of those procurement strategies so that my presentations are them. I have my list that I've created, but I don't believe in groupthink, right? So I don't want to, I want to make sure that my list is complete so that I can test it so that one of the challenges I think, and Phil, you talked about this, right, is that there's many wide ranges of possibilities for each one of these groups, right? And how do you express all of the possibilities without leaving out one? But so what I've asked for is anyone that has ideas on long-term energy procurement strategies, whether they be very generic or very specific. Some have responded to me, thank you, Phil. With respect to, please send me those lists of what you think we can do for the long term so that I can test the presentations and make sure I cover all wide ranges.
So that's one input that the PUAB can have to the process.
Yes,
That's kind of a.
that's what I'm
That's
asking,
a
yes.
kickoff.
Mhm.
I think that's excellent, and that's because of our relationship that we, it's built in, we have that.
I mean, the mechanics of this, I always kind of think mechanics.
Yeah.
And he's got, what is your next presentation?
May 5th, I believe.
May 5th. You know, we don't meet till May 29th or 28th, something like that. So we're not gonna have any input into the joint action agency thing other than, you know, what he just asked us for. So I don't see us being able to review each of these options and forming opinions and rendering our opinions to the city council. It seems to me that it'll be almost like deja vu all over again. When the workshop occurs, you know, somebody will ask us what our opinion is of the 4 options that he developed. And we have some sort of, you know, agreement on what this group believes of those 4 options. And perhaps, you know, you're the spokesman of that. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of the mechanics.
Rank them.
Right.
And rank them, whatever.
Yeah, but I still think that you know, whether you talk to, I don't know. Hey, when you guys want to talk to each other without all getting in a room, how do you do that? I mean, how do you,
I mean, you
does
can-
Scott facilitate discussions?
Sometimes, I mean, you can do it within, so it doesn't violate the.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
But getting back to this concept that,
you could do like people could do 2x2s with Brian or anybody from PUAB for that matter too, to meet with various folks on council. So I mean, maybe that's a way to do it. And I say that is to do 2x2s with council. So whoever would like to do that, can certainly do that. And
but I'm getting back to, you know, asking the city council, maybe suggesting that we have input at the workshop, but maybe asking them how else we can help. I don't know how you're gonna get their buy-in unless they buy into us helping them.
2x2 will be like, we could easily have 3 different
Yeah,
positions.
yeah, no, I think
I
somebody,
mean,
I think
I'm
somebody.
trying to
would-
get us to come to a conclusion and say, okay, these are the options that the city staff are coming up with, the facts. about those issues. And will that make a difference if we come up and say it has to be, would you think, are there four things, or what do you think an end product should be when where the city's going with their energy plan? How many things are there? I mean, if there's 10 things, my gosh, how's that gonna work versus which are the four most important things or something? You know what I mean? I mean, how do we put this down if we think that to get this letter to be useful? That's what I'm looking for to get us as an organization. It's the 2x2s is I think we're gonna end up with different points of view and we're not gonna be able to discuss it. The Open Meetings Act stops that type of thing.
Well, maybe should we frame the memo as we're concerned about the lack of an energy strategy moving forward, and we are here to help, and we're happy to support the city in developing that if they want our help. I mean,
I'm gonna keep advocating that in addition to the strategy is that the city is not aligned on what its goals are. And those goals might be goals that are changing over time, which becomes a dynamic energy strategy that's built out for the near term. I think what's happened is it's come as a surprise to people that, okay, we're not moving forward with IME, but guess what? It's tomorrow, and now you need to still start designing for the energy plan that needs to take effect 10 years or whatever, 7 years from now. That still needs to start now. And I think that's gotten lost on people. And starting now means you got to build a plan, and the plan needs to have a set of goals, and the goals haven't been established. So I think we have a moment here, my opinion, to also go to the council and sort of state this risk that there is an established strategy and plan defined, and that the PUAB could help with aligning stakeholders on what those outcomes and goals the objectives need to be, so that a strategy or the strategy could have a set of options, which Brian is starting to work on, that can build towards delivering towards that outcome. Once those options are understood, the costs, the trade-offs, the impact on sustainability and reliability and resiliency can all be better understood and evaluated, and then you can kind of pick the best option, because the cheapest option may not be the best option for the city in the long run, depending on what you're trying to design for. If you truly feel that we're at risk of blackouts from the PJM zone, then we got to design for something like that, and it's going to come at a cost. And there's also a longer run consideration is that if we're going to design just for the cheapest cost, then there's also longer run decisions that need to be made about how you're going to continue to persist that. Because the coal plants that we're invested in now aren't going to run into perpetuity. At some point, then you need to invest in more generation that you're going to own and operate to try to maintain that cost. And the cost of doing that may not be the same as the cost that the residents are paying 15, 20 years from now, because the cost to build that generation is going to go up. We live in kind of a vacuum here. New York, Boston, they're paying 2 to 3 times what we are in energy costs. And to think that we're going to somehow magically hedge ourselves against the rest of the United States energy costs into perpetuity, I think is a falsehood. Now you can go, well, I don't care because that's 15 to 20 years from now. But if we're really being thoughtful and honest with ourselves about managing just in the cost lens, you got to think about that longer term too. If that's a choice that the city makes, then there's different sets of decisions that they might need to make based on doing that.
This all sounds good. However, we had a city council that their primary responsibility or their primary goal was reduce the carbon. And when the MDR option came to them, everybody thought, oh, this might be a good thing, until they saw what the cost was. However, no one bothered to tell us about that. We didn't even, it's like pulling teeth to find out what was the result of all of these companies that we contacted to see what the cost was on that. I don't know how honest really the city council was, in with us. How do you work with something like that? If people say, hey, keep that down, we don't want that out.
So
That's
we
what
need
happened.
them to document what the goals, what the objectives are in the strategy.
But you could put, okay, so they put, reduce our carbon.
It's gotta be at a
It's,
much
it's gonna be more
higher
expensive,
of specificity.
no matter what.
But we don't even know what the balance right now between cost and resiliency. Like, how concerned are we about the PJM step? I mean, do we need to start building our own generation? Like, is that a real concern of the council?
Is it realistic?
Right, with, that's not defined anywhere.
However, it doesn't take much to figure out the money that's gonna take to have that versus have where we get our power from now and work on something else that the whole rest of the world, we're not in a vacuum. There's the rest of the community around here. We're not the only one that's gonna go black if
Well,
PJM goes on.
Geneva has their peaker plant. Why don't we talk to them about partnering? I mean, I don't want to get in the weeds here because
Yeah,
this is the
right,
point.
right,
There
right,
are
that's
so
not the
many
point. Right.
options and we need to define the broader.
So it comes down to the resiliency. Okay, so we have 4 points we're trying to make. See, where are we going to say, this is what we recommend to the city council from our discussion to help them with this? Because I'm getting the impression they're willing to go out after different things until they find out this costs too much or this is this and that. And then all of a sudden, well, now we've missed our opportunity to do one of these other options, that Brian came up.
I don't know that this board has the expertise and the information, the time and the knowledge to go out and make specific recommendations about the solutions.
No, that's not what I'm asking for. I'm asking for, they are the ones, city staff are the ones that are doing it. We should be involved somehow in seeing what the city staff is coming up with prior to and presenting prior to the city council. So at least we can say, oh, well, we would recommend, our group,
Lou, are you recommending, for example, that after he completes his the next thing is the joint action agency option, right? That we review it before he
We have a
presents
special
it to
meeting.
the city
we
council?
have a special
And
meeting.
then during
I
that,
hate to do that to you, but at least we'd be the first one, at least not to judge you on what you've looked at. It's the it's the likelihood or the thing that we say that would get us that way, get us to the goal or not.
What's the goal?
The goal is, we just said, it's gonna be cost, it's gonna be the consistency, reliability, resiliency,
I think
that
we
type
need-
of thing.
I think we said we need council to define that.
So
Right.
with prior to where he's going, so that he knows where he's going with each one of those. See whether it's appropriate. Okay, so would our recommendation say, would our letter say that we recommend that you guys come up with your strategic plan and that? But also, it's twofold. Yeah, they need an end, but we need to be part of that process that he makes presentations to us. Because he's gonna make it to them. Why wouldn't he present it first to us to give our input to it? Or negative, because of the consistency or the knowledge that we have here in this group. Just to say, yeah, that's a good one, or that's not a great one for this reason. Or it's a good one.
you either do that or you wait till all of his presentations are done and then have the PUAB form its opinion. But I don't see us getting together before he has to present in early May
Yeah, I
to
don't
go through his presentation.
either, because I
just
think
don't see it.
there were folks in council that wanted to actually see the presentation before this date, so I think there's gonna be people looking for this before May 5th. And then, yeah, I think that makes sense to have all of the 4 options, that way we have everything.
I just-
We've seen all of it, and then we collectively get together and review everything and.
I think the message is, we want to have a voice in this issue. Mechanics doesn't allow us to have an opinion on every option he's gonna present, I don't think. So it's gonna have to be a package. And, you know, I don't think we're gonna, at a workshop, recommend we go with IMEA or go recommend we build a solar farm or anything. We'll just express our own opinion at the workshop, I think. I'm just throwing that out there as,
A 3 minute.
well, no, more than
Oh.
3 minutes. Actually, we got a half hour, Lou. Don't forget the PUAB got a half hour at the last workshop, right? So it was 30 minutes.
No, the last workshop.
But you got 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah, we did. We split up, opposing views.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. We did get a half hour.
Yeah.
Opposing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's sort of, I guess, fine, and I think the council's view of having this process and then, what would, persist at the workshop, so. Granted, I mean, I'd fully acknowledge the time constraints on coming up with a solution. And
This is tough. So I guess we're saying there's no reason for a letter. We're just gonna wait until he's done and then that's it. I think it would have, don't you think it would have an impact on how he continues to review the other options as to what recommendations come from us? Because he's asking for recommendations. It's hard to come up with a recommendation until you hear something. It's always hard to come up with fresh stuff other than responsive stuff.
This group isn't like a working group where we'll sit around a table,
Right.
huddle and do
Right.
things, come up with spreadsheets and stuff like that.
Oh.
No, we react to what we're presented.
Right.
Is presented to us. That's the reality. So you gotta work within the time constraints and the schedules, and the calendars and all that to get that done. And, I just don't see that there's a mesh between what he has to do and our meeting dates, and even if we throw a special meeting in there. I just see it'll be impractical to do it as we go along, and, you know, I wish it was different, but I just.
Yeah.
Looking at the
So
reality.
maybe then we go back to, the letter says, the way Michelle had mentioned it, that we, or Phil recommended it, that we recommend to come up with strategic plan, energy plan.
That
So that we
maps,
know where we're going.
that maps to a set of goals.
That maps the goals.
Has a clear objective and a North Star.
Specificity of those goals has to be defined and may vary by somebody, but somebody needs to give Brian some direction of like, is he building towards some level of resiliency, some sustainability? Is there a cost range for electricity that he's trying to design for over the coming 15 to 20 years? You know, some combination of all that. It's maybe not a specific target, but it's a
Yeah.
range of these things and
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
he can assess how the set of options, you know, achieves, kind of hits the point of those ranges for each solution set.
Right. That sounds like you, at least we're giving the city council something useful.
I guess having counsel in here, like if you heard, if you heard that
If you heard that,
come into council, would everybody just go, well, we're not really sure how we would get there, so it kind of just gets punted back.
blow us off.
I mean, it'd be helpful to me, just, knowing what available options there are, because we've all sat and through these discussions for the past, couple of years, but, trying to think about this from a technical perspective. So like if I wanted to say like, I want to design the fastest like system possible, because I write high frequency trading code. And then there were certain constraints around that I could do it.
Because it could be the fastest, but also might have the highest risk, right? And you're like,
Yeah,
so where are these trade-offs? I think that's
Right.
kind of the analogy.
Yeah.
that-
I mean, I think if that like came and there was like an explanation of, I guess, yeah, trade-offs, then that'd be helpful. I guess as well as like, possibilities of like misses as well. Meaning like, just because you do one thing completely, like just the opportunity cost of not doing something. Um, would be helpful to, I don't know if that makes sense, just the
I mean-
opportunity cost of not doing,
If we don't build our generation, what would it be?
right, yeah,
Blackouts, or it could cost 10 times more to do it 20 years down. the road.
right.
Director Gross, I have a question. With these options we're talking about and what you and the city staff are going to be putting together, does this complicate things for you or does this help? Or is this a situation that you're saying, we kind of have built in what you guys are talking about because we're thinking that way or not?
Well, I think what we've always talked about is having the strategy session at the end so that people understand what their options are and they don't pick an option or they don't pick something or set a North Star that's completely infeasible,
Yes.
right? So that's my goal with the presentations, is to go through all the range of options, talk about, everything around the center circle. How does it address flexibility in the future? One of the things that was added in the, right? So that's my goal. Then we committed that we would talk to council at the end of the last presentation about what was to be included in the September workshop. Strategy, how do we want to go down the path of what the future looks like? How do we want to evaluate all those options, right? So that's what we've committed to and we'll absolutely execute whatever council directs us to.
So with what he just said, does that help? Does that fit? And what we're asking for is we just want an opportunity to review and look and have comments about it.
Be like the non-voting 10th council member at that workshop.
Well, but the workshop.
get a
is-
voice, we
is
get a voice.
conversation before.
Get a voice at it, but obviously, we're not voting on it.
Yeah, we're not, but for a group of us, it's easy for us to have disagreements.
Well, yeah, we may not have a collective voice
Yeah,
at the
right.
workshop
Right.
when
So
we get
that's
together.
that's a tough thing. That's a
Yeah,
tough
well,
thing.
then if that's the case, then that's the case.
I
Well,
guess,
but how many voices are coming from here? Who's gonna be the voice?
Well, you'd be the spokesman.
No, I know, but it's what comes out of my mouth.
So,
I mean, maybe the compromise is that, because it doesn't sound like it's realistic for us to go to council and say, you need to define what your goals are, because I think everybody would be like, how do I define a resiliency goal? Like, no way, no, I
Yeah,
can't
you're
do
right.
that.
That's,
Is that instead, if we're aligned that we need to have a strategy with some objectives in mind, but we can't really define those on behalf of the city, we can kind of inform those. What we can do is try to provide direction to Brian to say, as he was just sharing, make sure as you communicate all these different options that you share about how much they can impact. Let's just say we all aligned on these 4 categories were the important things for the city, which I think they've kind of been talked about: resiliency, price, et cetera, right? That he can somehow rate those and normalize, are they an A, B, or C, or are they, high, medium, low impact? So that it kind of simplifies everybody's ability to look at that in terms of how much each one of these options, attach to or impact each one of these objectives, which we kind of are thinking on behalf of the city are the things that are important to them.
right. So does it make sense that what we want to do is provide support and maybe another point of view that you haven't thought of? Because you have all of this covered from what you're doing. Your process has this covered.
Or are we asking to add to this circle? Because I mean, there's financial level. Maybe it is to clearly add resiliency, reliability. Carbon free is on here. I guess that could cover sustainability.
But there's some things not within, and I know you were responding to some, or your if there's blackouts, what are we gonna do about it? But-
Well, we have options of things we can do.
But do we financially?
Sure, we could partner with Geneva and try and leverage their peaker plant. We could build our own generation.
Saying, sure, yeah.
What have we I mean, maybe.
We did
For
the
a number.
storage analysis, right? The storage analysis was done and kind of back favorable, the
Yes,
committee.
yes. I am also looking into natural gas generation. So,
Yeah, we could build our own natural gas generation and
plan to have that in the presentation.
perfect battery.
I think the value that this group can bring to Brian's options is that, as we've just demonstrated for the last 45 minutes, we're more conversational than city council is. I mean, I
More
hate to say it,
technical
I hate to say it, but city council
Yeah.
members really don't talk to each other. So it's kind of a tortured discussion that they have,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, as opposed to this. So maybe if we get whenever the schedule allows, we get to review Brian's options, we get
Even
to
if it's
do
not
a critical evaluation
right,
of it.
right away.
We do a critical evaluation of it to help him, explore them better. And then we get our, whatever, at the workshop. I mean, I'm trying to see, how can we help Brian? He's
Yes,
probably got 90% of it done already. And if we saw that, we could say, well, what about this, Brian? What about that? Maybe fine tune it a little bit. And that's the value we add.
that's the point. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's to support him as this goes through. The problem has been, we've not had an opportunity. However, because this is extended over the way it is, it might work automatically for us that we just, okay, we don't have a meeting that coincides every time he's done and does a presentation. We could look at it after the fact. I mean, nothing's gonna be settled at this point. I don't think that the city council
I
said,
think-
oh yeah, that's good, we're
We
done.
just need to have reviewed his options before the workshop to have our.
Yeah.
If we're gonna talk. at
Before the workshop.
Yeah.
That's right. That would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think, somebody at council on Tuesday had brought up, partnering with St. Charles or whatever, so like theoretically, you or people here would give their opinion on that and what that would look like.
Yeah. Maybe we'd think of something he hasn't.
Yeah, and add on to it, or maybe say it's a good idea, bad idea, whatever, so. I think,
Well, the first thing has to happen, the city staff makes their contact, they do it, and then we hear what the results are. And then we form an opinion. Is that a good deal or not a good deal?
well, I'm just saying, people
No, I know, right.
had any sort of expertise to begin with on it, and then like their opinion, whatever, so.
Right,
So
okay.
a recommendation that the city develops an energy master plan, whether or not they do it, we can only do so much. But then the ask that we be more involved in the process. For example, attending the workshop. What else? I think keep it kind of actionable. What else? Attending the workshop, reviewing Brian's presentations.
Periodically
Well,
with our
whenever the
meetings.
schedule allows us to.
with our, right, with our scheduled or special meetings.
Yeah, so you're
To
doing
provide support.
May 5th, did you say?
May 5th, June 2nd.
So at our May
July
28th
20th.
meeting, we'd only be able to maybe perhaps evaluate your joint action agency
Yes,
thing, right?
Correct.
And if we have any additional information that'll help you, that's good. If not,
Good to meet with Brian on it, though.
yeah,
Oh, we could
In the
do
interim,
both.
we
We could
can-
do both.
better off.
We'll not to 30 minutes, so.
But I think, Lou, you gotta, in that letter, you gotta express the fact that we feel we need to be part of this somehow, that we feel we're kind of frozen out right now. We were frozen out when the 9
Points of.
the 9 points of,
demand.
the counter offer to IMEA. This group was not involved in that. I expressed displeasure with that at my 3-minute talk. We were frozen out of that. We're kind of frozen out of, almost everything since this is all erupted again.
Right.
Thank God Michelle spoke up at the last meeting about, we don't have a plan, because I think you kind of got some
that's what-
action going in the city.
Yeah,
Hey,
the discussion.
this is, even at the PUAB, we're recognizing we don't have a plan. So you speaking up, I think, really kind of got a ball rolling.
Yeah, I think
So it has value, even though it might seem like it's, small, but it does have value.
And that's the spirit of what I wanted to do and why I wanted to make it as neutral as possible, just at least get us in the door. But I think this conversation has been very useful because now I think we have an idea specifically how we can help and support Brian. And have some input because the most important input is to him from us.
Yeah.
Because the input from us to the city council, they wouldn't accept. But if he said, this is what's happening and this probably might be a mistake, or this would be good, it carries more weight with him, from him. I mean, as long as we support him, that's really
Yeah.
where we want
So
to make
our voice as we go along will be.
Right.
through
It'd be
him.
inappropriate
Through
to
him.
respond to each one of those specifically.
Yeah, I mean, Brian could even say, you know,
Because we
hey,
could-
my PUAB reviewed this particular option. And here's what their comments were, by the way, city council. You know what I mean? It could be that we could express our opinions through him as he's presenting the options. And then we get that final shot at the end of the workshop.
Yeah.
And maybe if Michelle has a good idea for one of the options, they'll react to it because I think you kicked off a lot of
I think so
activity,
too.
last comment.
That was a good, both of you had good conversations too.
Well, my term ends May 30th, so
So you'll be here for the last meeting.
yeah, I will be.
Oh, that's right.
Good. Well, the fact of what we think is going to happen, this is not a time sensitive thing as time sensitive as I thought. And so, I'll try to come up with something, get it out, give us a chance to work on it. Come up with something that's appropriate so that we could all sign and agree with it and then get it out.
Thank you for taking up the comment.
Absolutely. Thank you for comfort with that issue because it was obvious. That was the meeting I couldn't make. And then I thought, watching it go, oh, and then, oh, I mean.
We finally agreed on
Yeah,
something.
we did. But I mean, that's why I thought it was that important. But why I almost wrote it right then, but then I had no way to present it or talk about it.
So at our May 28th meeting, I keep saying that date, but I don't know if that's exactly the one, but we would review his joint action agency option, which he would have already presented to the city council, and a preview of the market without assets. Is that that's the next option?
Probably speak to the concepts that I'll talk about for a market with assets, but I don't know what the timeline looks like for publishing the council agenda item, but I probably wouldn't have it done. Quite honestly, I work on these up until the last minute that they're posted.
Sure.
I mean,
Well, yeah.
You're giving it June.
No, what
2nd,
else are you
right?
doing?
yeah,
You're giving it June 2nd.
that's correct.
We're meeting, I think, May 28th.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
think the timing might be good for us to preview what you would tell the council, for us to get a little input into it, maybe too late, but I mean, it seems like the timing would work for that.
I think so. And you were asked to post the information earlier.
Mhm.
So there you go.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Okay. Got a plan.
Excellent. I think this is great discussion. Thank you, everybody, for participating and truly trying to figure this out. And I know that it kind of drags, but I think this city is struggling with that issue and with the whole issue. Hopefully, you could support Brian to get the facts. Please.
Just wondering, how much does the city council listen to the individual boards? Like
How much does the city council listen to what?
the individual boards?
Individual boards?
Yeah.
Like me.
Yeah, that's a great.
Well, they
Thank
didn't
you,
listen to
yes.
the planning and zoning commission.
Yeah, they didn't
Not
pull
to put
that
you on,
off.
sorry, I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
I think people certainly listened to this last UAB board meeting. I don't know that I mean, I don't know. I'm not gonna speak for everybody, but it seemed like, some people may or may not have listened to like actually all the presentations, like when we were in council meeting. Yeah, the UAB board meetings, I don't know, sort of depends on which board, like the, emergency response one is literally like, it's not very long. So, and you could probably just look at the minutes of that one. I don't know, I can't, I hate giving an answer like it depends, but
It
Well, it
varies.
depends on the topic,
Yeah.
how critical it is.
yeah, for sure.
Varies. Sure.
And so people definitely listened to the last one, so.
Okay, so any other, that was new business. Was there any other new business that we were, discussing? Going to discuss? I have one very quick, request. And both, of our student participants are not here right now, but I would have asked both of you the question, but saying you're here. And, what was your impression? And I'm not trying to dig for anything other than from a school, watching a school presentation impacting the city. What was your impression of the presentation?
I actually think it's like I have a like, so I go to Naperville North, right? So I'm seeing all this construction firsthand. And I just know like from my experiences with like how other people like perceive it, it's like it feels like we're trying to accomplish something that is going to amount to nothing, and it's like or like amounting to less than the construction is worth. Because I'm pretty sure the expansion for Naperville North was $12 million, and it's really only helping athletics. And I don't really know that much about the environmental aspect of it, but in terms of how it's affecting the school, it's definitely made like things harder for the students. Like, for example, we have like half the parking that we usually do. So like there's no more athletic passes for people in sports. So like that cuts out half the student parking. And then they remove like half the exits. And then it's the same with the expansion for the transportation center where like the bunny patches, which is like what they're expanding into as they're called. I agree that like the turf was necessary, but the turf, what they did is they didn't expand the space. So even though it's nicer space, it doesn't mean that we're gaining more space by the turf. So they're just reducing the amount of space that the athletics have. But I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Right. Well, thank you, Zane. I appreciate that. And it's all part of trying to reach people and show them what are they getting for their money, how are we supporting them, and how this is all working. And you're looking at it from your eyes that you see it every day, the impact that you every day. And sometimes we have to make sacrifices to get something positive. And that's where I was just kind of looking to see what was that going. Okay, well, that completes all of our new business. Is there any other new business? No. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Second.
Please say it loudly.
I motion to adjourn. This is Michelle.
Bill, I second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Say
Aye.
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 Thank you
Thank you.
for everybody for your participation.
Here's your gavel.
I need a